Good evening. A conference meeting of the City Council of the City of Orange Township held in the council chambers of City Hall, 29 North Day Street, Orange, New Jersey on Tuesday, May 19th. Following this meeting will be the regular meeting. Roll call. Councilman Corbett.
Here.
Councilwoman Eason.
Here.
Councilwoman Galt Butler.
Present.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Here.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Here.
Council President Williams. Council Vice President Coley.
Present.
Also present is myself, Ms. Lanier, the City Clerk, Mr. Smith, the City Attorney, Mr. Mapp, Director of Finance, Ms. Lascari, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Towns, the Representative for the Legislative Research Officer. Did Mr. Wade walk in?
Yes.
Yes.
Acting Police
Mr.
Director.
Wade, the Acting Police Director, Mr. Mays, Administration Representative, and Ms. Homer, Clerk's Office. Please be apprised, anyone wishing to discuss agenda or general items shall sign one book. There will be 2 columns in the book, one for agenda items and one for general issues. Each person signing the book will check agenda items or general issues. If they check only agenda items or general issues, they will be allowed to speak for 5 minutes. If they check general items and general issues and agenda items, they will be allowed to speak for 10 minutes. The requirements for NJSA 10:4-9 et sec, the Sunshine Law, has been met. A notice of this meeting was sent to the Star Ledger and published in the record transcript on July 17th, July 17th, 2014, posted on the bulletin board in City Hall and filed in the office of the City Clerk.
Matters for discussion. Presentation by Ronald Leman from United States Environmental Protection Agency. Coming up. Thank you.
Vice President Coley and members of the council, my name is Ron Naiman. I'm a representative from the Federal United States Environmental Protection Agency. I'm here with Demetrios Clarides, a senior project manager from HDR Incorporated. They're the primary contractor for EPA on what's being called the Orange Valley Regional Groundwater Superfund site. What we're here today for, we're ramping up on the little 10-minute presentation we have here. We're here seeking formal approval from the township for access to perform environmental activities in relation to the Superfund site activities that we're going to be performing. Okay. You'll see on the handouts that I gave you, we originally thought we were coming in on the 5th, so the date on the front cover is wrong. That's great. We've been coordinating activities so far with Chris Mobley, and I've also talked to Mr. May on occasions regarding the current activities that we're planning. And what I just wanted to do tonight real quickly is just give you a really brief overview of Superfund so you kind of understand where we are in the process, because we're very early on in the process of this particular project, and where we're headed and why we need the access to get into, primarily speaking of the 3 municipal wells at this time. Once again, we're operating under CERCLA or Superfund law. CERCLA is the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act of 1980. It was amended in 1986 under legislation called SARA. And what this fund does, it's a trust fund that was set up for the purpose of cleaning up abandoned or uncontrolled hazardous waste sites. And the trust, the very important point is that the trust was also available to clean up sites where there was no responsible party named. And as you'll see, we'll get a little bit further on in this presentation. We don't know who caused the problem. We only know that at this point there is a problem. And the things that we're going to be doing are hopefully going to derive that some conclusions here about what's going on.
Point of order. Why don't you turn the podium around?
I just didn't want to have my back.
It's okay. It's okay.
Excuse my back.
It's okay.
My back there. So once again, the Superfund program is a process. Now I'm going to give you a graphic in a minute that shows the various steps. I just wanted to let you know that we're kind of like in the 3rd step in the process. So the site has been listed on the national priorities list, which allows us to fund certain kinds of activities. If you can move on to the next slide. So what the Superfund process looks like, someone identifies that the site is an issue. In this case, the site came to us through the state of New Jersey. And then some preliminary assessment site inspection work was performed, essentially gathering environmental data to see if there is an issue. Then after we recognized that there was an issue and people were potentially being impacted, we listed the site on the national priorities list. Now we're at the third stage, which is known as the remedial investigation feasibility study stage. So we don't have any kind of decision documents yet. We haven't decided what the remedy is going to be. We've got a long way to go, many years of studying and investigation before we're going to get to that point. What the preliminary assessment and site inspection information did provide us was the fact that this may be a very grand scale type of problem. In a couple slides, I'll tell you the kinds of problems you have. You have 3 municipal wells, 2 of which are at this stage probably not in operation, but we're combined into the overall water system within the township. The 3 wells are contaminated. The good thing is the 1 well that's still operating is being treated, so the water that's coming out and being combined is fine for use after treatment. But prior to treatment, it is contaminated with a bunch of chlorinated organics. So what the preliminary assessment process did, it identified all kinds of sites that potentially could have caused the problem for the 3 municipal supply wells. And all those dots on this figure in the graphic, and I can provide you better color figures if you really like. I know the quality of the hand I gave to you is not that good. But identifies all the various potential source areas or projects in the immediate vicinity. And as you can see, it's a rather large area. I mean, these municipal wells are a few thousand feet apart from the northernmost to the southernmost. From the well in Orange Park up to the Gist Place well to the north. And there's a middle well in the middle that was located at Brook Alley. That's been out of commission for a long time. So we've identified a lot of different potential properties that could be causing this organic contamination to these various wells. So the site is on the national priorities list. It was proposed back in March of 2012. Took a number of months, but it was listed final. So now we're allowed to move forward with the remedial investigation stage. We don't have any removal. There's 2 sides components to the emergency and remedial response division within EPA. There's a removal program for immediate threats, and there's a long-term program called that we're going to perform an RAFS type of activity, and we're on that side. We're in the long-term investigatory and cleanup side of the program. Next slide. So our dilemma at this point is we're trying to figure out what's going on out here. So we need to get out to do some sampling, vertical profiling, geophysical work at the 3 municipal supply wells, and we need you to sign off on an access agreement to do that. There's regional contamination in the area. If you sample at a number of the other state hazardous waste sites in the area, you find similar types of contamination. So we can't sitting here today just point a finger at one property and say, this particular industrial facility was a printing facility, and they use these chemicals, and we know they had a problem at this site. They're the ones that are attributing to our problem. We can't say that at this point. We're too early on in the process. So the good folks at HDR have recommended some very innovative techniques for sampling, and that's the thing that we're going to do first in this process. We're going to be doing something called compound-specific isotope analysis, which is like a fingerprinting type analysis. It should point us in the right direction of where this contamination is coming from, and maybe, hopefully identify some potential sources. Next slide. So what are the threats? They're chlorinated solvents. They're perchloroethylene, trichloroethylene, and 1,2-dichloroethylene. We find these things all over the place. Dry cleaning companies use them. Plants that have degreasing processes use them. So we're looking at dry cleaners in the area. We're looking at plants that maybe had a printing operation or some kind of metals fabrication that are using degreasers, things of that nature. We're going to be doing a broad sampling of a number of facilities around the town as our first step. Next slide. Once again, just a little bit redundant here. So we're at the remedial investigation feasibility study stage. Once we do this preliminary investigatory work that HDR will be conducting on behalf of EPA under EPA supervision, then the process will move forward. The work that we're going to be conducting now is essentially a preliminary sampling effort. So after we get this data back, we're going to have to evaluate it and then take next steps. So this process is going to take a number of years. The positive thing from your perspective is that your water department is already treating the water that comes out of these municipal wells. They have air strippers on the wells, so the water, when it gets combined with other wells from outside of the immediate area, is of good enough quality for drinking water purposes. And the levels in these wells are not all that high. They're in the parts per billion range. But for these particular types of contamination, the maximum contaminant level that the federal government would allow, or the New Jersey State drinking water quality criteria, are very low numbers. The federal numbers are around 5 for PCE and TCE, and the state numbers are around 1 part per billion. And we see numbers in the few parts per billion to a few tens, and I think the highest number is around 70. And some of these contaminants are potential carcinogens. Next slide. We'll be in contact with you moving through this process. All this information that we generate when it goes final is available under the Freedom of Information Act, and we'll be in communication with the folks in the town here, probably with Mr. Mobley and Mr. Mays as we move through this process. And we will also establish a local repository where all documents that we generate and finalize will be kept. So once again, for right now, what is the Orange Valley Regional Groundwater Superfund site? It's the 3 municipal wells. So we have not defined the boundaries of an actual site per se. Next. This is the conceptual model, kind of technical information here, to allow us to graphically present to folks what we think is going on here. Now, these municipal wells are very deep, but the area where water comes into the well is very long. It's not like one specifically small defined zone. It's all of the bedrock aquifer, so there's many hundreds of feet that water is entering into these wells. So we've got to try to figure out where that bad stuff is coming into the well. So it will be a process, but we've got an excellent contractor on board. And what we're going to try to do is, going back here, we're going to try to figure out if we can identify the people that discharge stuff onto the ground or through a well or whatever that leaked into the ground and is coming into the well. This first step is limited focus. We're only going to sample maybe a dozen or so other properties aside from the 3 municipal wells. But sampling the municipal wells is critical, which is why we have to get access from you folks. Does us no good just to run out and sample other wells unless we have the data from the municipal wells, because we're trying to tie back the contamination that's in the municipal wells to these other potential source areas off the well property. And this is just a picture of the kind of facilities that we're talking about. One of the highlighted facilities is a former printing industry, Selecta Flash, which is west of where the municipal wells are. But there are something like 100 potential candidate other properties that may have contributed to the contamination that we have here. So once again, our prime objective today is to get you folks to sign off on our access agreement. And if you don't have copies of that in your possession that you need to look at, I'll make sure that Mr. Mobley gets them to you. We've been dealing with Mr. Mobley for a number of months now. It's a very simple, standardized form that we like to use. We can't fully indemnify folks under our existing CERCLA law. We can get the contractor to provide certain insurance information to the town if that's necessary. And that's my presentation. We're just hoping that we can work with you folks to do this in a timely manner. The HDR folks are primed and ready to get out into the field this summer, and we'd really like to accomplish that to keep this project on schedule. And I thank you for your attention. If you have any questions?
Council members, just before we have questions.
For the record, I just want to announce Council President is present, 7:07 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Lanier. Councilman Coley?
Yeah, you mentioned Superfund.
Yes.
So that means that this is not going to cost us anything.
This isn't going to cost you anything.
Okay.
The federal program.
Got
What
it.
we're going to try to do is identify the person that caused the problem and go after them. Let them do the cleanup. If that doesn't happen under the legislation, if it's the fund lead, we can't identify a responsible party, we'll continue to do the work.
Thank you.
And Ronald?
Yes.
Okay. And I walked in and I heard you say, I think you were locating the different wells, and one being, I think you said in Orange Park. So
Yes.
has the county been, have you had discussions with the county as well?
No, we haven't.
Okay, because our county liaison, and is in your rear, so just because the, like Orange Park is
Right.
a county location, so just, they should be at the table and they should be kept well informed as what's going on as well.
We'll do, sir. If you don't mind, hang out. I'll get your information before I.
And Council President, one last
Councilman
thing.
Coley?
I was looking through your handout.
Yes.
My eyes aren't as good as what they used to be.
Either am I. We'll get you better copies.
Okay.
We can send you an electronic copy of that
All right.
if you'd like.
Thank you.
And second that.
Okay.
Because I was sitting.
Yeah, I'll get a list through Mr. Mobley. We'll make sure all the council members get an electronic. Clear
Councilmember,
copy.
are there any other questions?
I have a couple.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler?
Yeah, can you name the 3 wells again?
There's the southernmost is Orange, in the one in Orange Park. The middle one was called Brook Alley. There's a little alleyway called Brook Alley. It was back in there. I had a hard time actually even finding that well. And the northernmost one is on Gist Place.
On Gist
It's
Place.
a little brick building near a yard area.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Easton?
Yeah, I just want to clarify just to make sure so that the public
Councilwoman, speaking to
understands.
your mic,
So
please.
that the public understands, the water is still good for drinking, as it is today, as of today.
After it is treated. After your United Water is your purveyor in charge of managing your water. They have an air stripper on the water that comes out of this well. It's treated to standard, so the water is clean enough to drink, and then it's combined with other water that comes from outside of those 3 wells. You can't just take the water directly out of any of these 3 wells and utilize it, because it would be above standards.
So there's no danger to the residents.
Not at this time.
Councilman Johnson?
Yeah, thanks for the report. What other towns in Essex County are you this Superfund covering other than Orange?
Well, I come out of the New York office of EPA, which is the main office for EPA Region 2, which covers New York and New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And there are literally dozens of other sites in the area. There's the Montclair Glen Ridge Radium site. There's all kinds of sites throughout this area in New Jersey. I'm only dealing with this particular one at this time.
So
Okay.
would you, because you said the 10th Congressional District, towns within the 10th Congressional District is your jurisdiction? I'm looking at your, not you said, I'm looking at your cover.
No, I mean, our jurisdiction is the entire state. Wherever there's a Superfund site, we go there and manage it.
Sorry, Councilman Johnson.
Okay, I just want to get a better grasp because I just happened to be parking in front of that number 18 on Central Avenue. Had my car parked there. I was reading a little sign on the fence about the contamination and so forth. Had no idea that we was going to be
Is
discussing
that
tonight.
Biddleman or Selectoflash, one of those
Oh
properties?
yeah, the selective
Yeah,
last.
yeah.
That-
Now, once again, I don't want to point a finger at them. They're just one of the many that cropped up as having these kinds of chemicals on site or discharging these kinds of chemicals. So we want to take a look at that particular parcel, and we're in the process of getting access to the Selectoflash facility. Now-
I understand it. I thought the place was abandoned, so you do still have access to getting to it.
I don't yet. Our attorneys are dealing with it.
That's the front.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm dealing with the bankruptcy attorney for that particular property. It's been very difficult finding ownership for that particular parcel. But we have the full power of the federal government behind us, and Office of Regional Counsel will get me access to that property eventually.
Right. Real quick, on page 6 of your page 6 at the bottom graph, that's just a typical graph of saying how something can leak into the wells. Well,
This is the graphic, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a hypothetical. There's some
It's a
factories.
hypothetical graphic just for presentation purposes, yes.
And Orange actually has 3 wells.
Orange
that are
Township
operating.
actually has 3. One is active, 2 are not currently active, but you have 3 municipal wells in the township, yes.
One's active.
Yes.
All
Now,
right,
you
thank
get water from other areas. You have
Right.
something out near the Watchung Reservation. You have more wells, and that water is piped in. It gets combined with water from the wells in town before it's distributed.
Right. Is Campbell's Pond being looked at?
What was that?
Campbell's Pond?
Campbell's Pond? I'm not aware of that.
Director
No way.
Mays?
That's not being looked at, not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
But Mr. Mays, if that's something you might think would be of interest to us, I'll give you a call and we can add that to our list of things to take a preliminary look at. We mostly think that this isn't like a near close-in surface kind of problem. It's probably a problem that's a little bit distal from these wells and it's leaking into the ground and then migrating over to the well because the wells were drawing in so much water from the surrounding area.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler?
Yeah, I have a question. How were you made aware of this particular problem?
How were you made aware?
This particular project came to us through the state of New Jersey.
So the state of New Jersey.
Identified it as an area of concern. Yes.
Councilwoman, did you have a follow-up question?
No.
No, okay. Council members, I've noted that some members of the public have questions pertaining to this. Did you plan on staying throughout the entire meeting? Council members, do you want to suspend the rules? Did you plan on staying for the?
I wasn't planning on it, but if you've got a couple of brief questions, I'll be happy to talk to folks. And we will be coming back in the future. I mean, we're not saying, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to disappear. If you're familiar with EPA's process, I mean, we will be back again. Once we have definitive information, we'll come out and we'll do, public availability or public meetings to present all this information to the general public so they can have input into what's going on the project.
Councilmember, what is your will to suspend the rules, or Councilman Eason?
He said that he'd be willing to stay. I would suggest that
He said he hadn't planned on staying.
But I'm saying for
Oh.
a couple of minutes for
Okay.
questions. So I would suggest if you wanted him to do that, he could take them across the hall in the conference room. That's what
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. So, you want to go talk to the people?
Sure.
Okay. We'll do that, and then you will come back for a public session at a later date?
At a later date, we'll be back for a regular public session, yes.
Okay. Okay, so if there are no other questions, we're going to move to our next matter to discussion, which will be our police director, Mr. Wade.
Thank you, Council.
Acting Director John Wade will come up and give his presentation, and Mr. Mobley will go to the conference room with the gentleman from EPA Water.
Council President,
Councilman Clark,
I've asked.
can you just give him a second to transition? But
Yeah,
you can go ahead while
I asked our acting police director, Wade, to come tonight, just to more or less introduce himself. He's really not prepared to give us a report in terms of what the plans are for this summer, as far as crime fighting mechanisms are concerned. But he is willing to come back next month with that report as a presentation.
So he will not be speaking tonight?
Yeah, he's coming tonight
Okay.
to
All right.
introduce himself and so forth and so on.
Just a sec. And, right, perfect, that's perfect.
Good evening, John Wade, Acting Police Director. I was invited by, again, Councilman Corbett, who asked me to come. The previous police director was supposed to give a presentation on some
Excuse me,
things.
Director, wait, Ms. Mobley, that can stay up until we do it brief, so you don't, so there's not a lot of noise. I'm sorry.
I can basically tell you what I've done thus far in the past couple of days, some of the things I've looked at, some of the things I've done with the captains and spoken with them, and they have a lot of ideas, and we've shared a lot of concerns and ideas, and we're going to try to work on some things as it relates to strategy. One of the major issues we want to do is we want to do some auditing. Not to say that we're doing anything wrong or say anybody's doing anything inappropriate, but to make sure we're going in the right direction. Those are some of the things we're looking at. We're taking a look at some of the budgets, the budget expenditures. Specifically, I know the overtime is a major concern, and we're trying to address some things and implement some ideas that may curtail some of that spending. One of the main issues with the overtime is the personnel, the amount of personnel we have. And, we got a couple of officers who are legitimately injured, and they're having surgeries and whatever have you, so they're not on full duty. And in order to serve on the streets in full duty, you have to be physically cleared by a doctor, and these officers are not. So we're dealing with some of those issues. We're going to be looking at realigning some personnel, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, there may, again, the personnel, there is it's my understanding that the administration is working on a certification process where we can commence to try to hire some officers. And we're currently working on that, attempting to currently identify an academy. If we get these officers vetted properly, and we'll try to get them into that academy. It's going to cost us a little bit because when you send officers out of county to attend the police academy, it's going to cost us a few dollars, but I think it'll be money well spent. And we're going to make sure that the individuals that are chosen and brought before the administration for hiring are the best candidates possible in the interest of the service to the citizens of Orange. We're going to take a look at some division personnel allocations, of course, civilianization. As far as the summer safety strategy, we're going to take a look at some things. We're going to, pretty much implement what we had last summer, and we're going to take a look at some things, and we're going to add some things. We're also going to be requesting the assistance of some agencies that are currently working with us, and they're willing to levy more resources to assist us, being that we're cash strapped right now, and we're going to execute that option as well. Crime stats and monitoring, we are looking at the UCR. The UCR is holding steady. We had a slight increase, I forget the exact number, but very, very, very minimal.
And what does UCR stand for, just for everybody?
Excuse me?
What does UCR stand for?
Uniform Crime Report. That basically tells us what type of crimes that take place, nonviolent or violent crime, and then you have 10 main categories that's gauged by. We're definitely going to look at our technology, specifically attempting to expand our wireless technology. We have a couple of ideas, and we have a couple of people who've come to the forefront. Some contacts that I have had personally that are willing to help us with that. And in addition, finally, last but not least, we want to strengthen our relationship with OFD as it relates to command and control on some of these critical incidents, major fires, incident command, emergency operations, you name it. That's just a brief wrap-up. There's numerous meetings I've had, and there are more meetings that I have to prepare a better picture in where we are and where we're looking to go and how we're going to get there. Any questions?
Council members, do you have any questions for Director Wade?
I don't have a question, just a quick statement, observation. There's no doubt in my mind that Mr. Wade will serve well in his acting role. I've known him for an extended period of time, and I know he's going to put the ship in the right direction. I'm very confident of that. Thank you, Council President.
Council members, any other questions? Councilman Johnson?
Council President. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Wade, I just want to say a welcome aboard on your new appointment for the city.
Thank you, sir.
I'm quite sure when you get in upper management and police force and you take the next step, you're qualified. So I just want to introduce myself. I'm Harold J. Johnson, Jr., Councilman in the West Ward. Looking forward to working with you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. And I apologize. I haven't reached out to you all. It wasn't intentional, but it's like I come into work, I look at the clock, I get all active into what I do every day, and when I look up at the clock again, it's 5 o'clock. But I invite each and every one of you to, if you want to sit down and talk, please give me a call, sit down, make an appointment with me, and I'll gladly talk to you about whatever issues or concerns you have.
Councilman Coley, would you like to introduce yourself to Acting Director Wade as well?
Yes. Director Wade, how you doing tonight?
How you doing, sir?
Welcome aboard again.
Thank you.
And I'm glad to hear that the administration is finally going to certify the list to hire some officers, something that they've never done since they've been here. And I just hope that that works out where we can get the number of officers that we need to get our numbers back up to where they are.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember, any other questions? And Director Wade, you'll be here for the duration, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council members, are there any ordinances and or resolutions that you would like to discuss at this time? Councilwoman Eason. 2015, yes, Councilwoman.
On the second page,
21.
third page, I guess.
23, 24,
E and F,
1,
And H.
2,
E and F and H.
E, F, and G, E, F, and H, okay.
Right. On H, on H, public is misspelled on the bottom, so you're gonna,
Okay, we're,
it says pubic. So we just need to change that. to
you
public.
had it before you, Mr. Towns? Do you have ordinance 23 in front of you? If not, I can,
And,
one second, Mr. Okay. If not, here you go, sir, I'm not, we can share it. On page 3, letter 8. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
and one of the other things, I just wanna, E and F, I wanted to just clear, to, I know at some point before, prior to, we used to vote on every, council had to vote on every resolution on by alphabetical order. And we went to, all in favor. I'm just saying we were violating some of the things that's already here, so we need to go back and adhere to what this says. The vote on every resolution should be roll call in alphabetical order. The president voting last. The vote of each member, and I think I've stated that all along, but somehow or another we went to saying all in favor, and I think we need to go back to where we were with that, because this is what we are voting on tonight, and saying this is the process that we will follow. I think somebody just arbitrarily changed the process, and it should have always been that way.
And so you're saying, as opposed to somebody passed and then coming back to that person or saying a meeting to adjourn, you want to do an actual,
No, no, no.
uh-huh,
When we vote on the consent
consent agenda?
agenda, you say all in favor. Everybody says aye.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is we need to go back to what we were doing prior to 2 years ago. And and this is what this is saying. Everybody has to vote individually. It has not a group vote, but a voice vote.
For a consent agenda, Councilwoman Eason?
For everything. It says for everything.
Okay.
This is what it says here, unless you want to change this resolution.
We can have a discussion on the motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we just need to follow what process we're putting in place. Someone else can go while I find my bill list.
Are there any other discussion?
Yeah,
Are
Council
there any
President.
questions? I'm sorry, Councilman Coley?
Yeah, 152, 2015, the bill list.
152.
I don't know. I'm on like page 8 and 9.
Page 8.
Right. The tonnage charges for the I guess just the garbage pickup.
Page 8.
I can't speak for all the other wards,
Mm-hmm.
but I do know in the East Ward, the garbage pickup is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
They are late most of the time. When they pick the trash up, they either store the cans any kind of way. They leave trash in the street, and then some days they don't even come. But we continue to pay for their services month after month, month after month. And I feel that we need to bring this contractor in for a matter of discussion so we could express to him, especially me, because I get tired of my trash not being picked up. I have to call Public Works that my trash not being picked up on my block. I get tired of calling. So we need to bring him in so we can let him know that he's not doing a good job. And if it was up to me, I'll find somebody else right today. And at this point in time, until he comes in for a matter of discussion, I would like to have his payments removed from the bill list.
Okay. And that would be the 250, So we're just talking about Lieutenant Joseph Smentowski?
Yeah, I can't pronounce the last name, but
Smentowski.
yeah, Joseph, I can spell, yeah,
And so
yes.
that would be, and that's separate and apart from the Utilities Authority? Would that be separate and apart from Utilities Authority, Mr. Mays?
I would ask that before we remove anything, that the council allow me to go back and do some research.
Well, it's
I'm not
clearly saying that it's
absolutely-
paying him, not the Essex County Utilities Authority. It's paying direct. I'm talking monies for him, not the Meadowlands.
No, I got, that's what I'm saying. separate.
I'm not talking about the Essex County Utilities Authority, the Meadowlands Commission. I'm talking about Joseph, the guy who's responsible for driving the trucks and all the workers.
Yeah, I would need to go back and do a little bit of research on that, because this, I know these are garbage or recycling charges, but our contractor is Galaxy, and I just want to make sure that we are affecting what we want to affect by doing that. So I need to go back and do a little bit more research on that before I'm not totally 100% sure.
Council President Tamardi Mays, isn't he the owner of Galaxy?
No, I don't think so. That's I need to go back and look at that. I'm not, I'm not in disagreement with you. I agree with you 100%, but I just need to double check it.
And when could you do that? Because we're going to vote on this bill list tonight. We're not going to say we're going to double check on it like tomorrow, and then this bill list is voted on. But that's something that could be done this evening.
Yeah, I can try to make a call right now and see what I can come up with.
All right, thank you.
Council President,
Councilman Johnson?
while we on this matter, I
On the
also like,
same-
I also like to echo the sentiment. Also, I can't recall ever seeing Galaxy as the name of the garbage company on the bill list. So it's
That's my point.
It's got to be Joseph, the name of the guy that owns the company, or whatever. But it's amazing how we like 8 months or so forth into our tenure, and we have never had a representative from Galaxy come before us, and it's well overdue. Because I'm calling like every other week or whatever myself for my section of town, and they're doing a horrible job. Somebody needs to come from this company and explain their poor work.
Council President?
Councilwoman Eason?
Oh, well, I didn't have that, but I just want to say that whatever we do is going to affect all 4 wards. So far, I have had no complaints. So I'm with Martin, the director, that we look into the company before we decide to pull this, because if we pull it and they don't get paid and they don't do anybody, we're all in trouble. So I think we need to have them come before us in a matter for discussion and see what the issues are and address them. And then if he doesn't comply, then you can stop paying him. But right now, this is back money, not future money. So I don't want him to say, well, I'm not going to pick up any place, because I haven't had any problems in my ward, and I'm riding there all the time, calling Public Works about picking up the brown bags and all of that stuff. So I'm just saying, it's going to impact the whole city. So, and I know we can't section out east and west, but I'm just saying, before we go that route, I think we need to have him come before us at the next council meeting, and Mr. Mays will do the investigation and see what the issues are, and see if we can't correct them. Or if we need to have a special meeting and bring him in and let him know if he doesn't clean it up, we're not going to pay him. That's my suggestion, because my ward is included if you take it all off. On page 8.
Before you go there,
No,
one second. Director Mays
okay.
will still make the phone call, and just and he was not finished. Councilman Eason.
Right, before we leave this matter right here, I do know that a lot of residents called into your office, Marty, and made complaints. Do you guys keep a running log of those complaints that are called in?
Yep, absolutely we do.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if you can provide that when they come in for the matters of discussion, please.
The log
Madam
calls
President?
of all the
Madam President, I said it. Can I
Oh,
ask a question?
on this same.
Yes, it's the
yes.
same.
Councilman-
I just Googled it, and their trade name is Galaxy Karting for Joseph Smithkowski.
Mhm.
Their trade name is Galaxy
It
Karting.
is Galaxy, so they're one and the same. Okay. Are you finished,
Yes, thank you.
Councilwoman Eason?
This question's for Mr. Mays. On page 8, where it says signal repair, did we ever do Main Street about synchronizing the lights so we can alleviate some of that traffic on Main Street?
Have to study.
Which one you looking at, Council?
Page 8,
Where it says traffic signal repairs, Main and Canfield, Park Main, North Center and Main and Oakwood. The 4,000.
Okay, I see it. Yes, I do see it.
Did we ever do anything with the lights so that they all synchronized so we can alleviate a lot of that traffic?
I'm still working on that, Council.
But that is in the works?
Yes.
Also on page 4. Balance Point, is that the payroll company?
yes. Yes, Councilwoman.
And I got a joke for Mr. Matt.
You want to tell her now, or is it just Mr. Matt?
No,
Okay.
$6.49. The next time you need I'll give you that. You don't have to process it. So we don't have to
Oh,
see
the
that on the
postage
bill.
above that?
For postage. Next time, give me the receipt, I'll pay you. So we don't process it part of it. $6.49.
She gonna give it to
Remind me. Printing and binding, the decals. Is that the new decals for the public works trucks?
Where you at, Councilwoman? I'm sorry.
Page 5.
Page 5?
Yeah, 176.
I did see it on the new sweeper.
Wrong page.
No, I did see the decal on there. I
Yep.
did. I saw it today.
Director Mays?
I'm not sure about that. It may be. I would need to check it to be to 100% sure.
I was going to suggest we pull that until we figure out what that was for. Because if it's for what I think it is, we need to have somebody else pay it.
I don't have a problem with
Where you at, Councilman? I'm sorry. Wait.
$176 for new decal, corporate decals.
Page 5.
Oh, decals, vehicles 18x3. Okay. Are there any other questions on the bill list? Attorney Smith, page 5. Right above the decals, the council fees. Are you there?
Where are you?
Page 5, right above the decal. And Councilwoman Eason, the council fees. You see, can you show them, Councilwoman Eason?
With Ewing?
Yes. Is that in a capacity employed or private?
That was in the capacity of. You can't hear.
That's in a capacity of in working capacity?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam President, I don't think they heard the question.
If the question, they didn't hear Attorney Smith's answer. He said it was, Councilwoman, I asked was the attorney fees in the capacity for the employee being in an employment state while he was working, and the attorney said, yes, it is. Are there any other questions on any resolutions and ordinances? No. A motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Easton, second by Councilwoman Grant Butler on the motion. Roll call, Councilman Coley,
Yes.
Councilman Corbett,
Yes.
Councilwoman Easton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Grant Butler,
Favor.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Yes.
And I am in favor as well. We're going to take, we'll start 5 minutes to give him time to take everything down.
Good evening. A regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Orange Township held in the Council Chamber, City Hall, 29 North Day Street, Orange, New Jersey, on Tuesday, May 19, 2015, following the conference meeting. May we please stand for a pledge of allegiance?
Wait, Councilwoman, before we start, is that air conditioner on? Yeah, can we, is everybody okay if we turn this air conditioner on?
If they talk,
Turn up your Everybody needs it on, Councilwoman. Look at it.
pledge allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilman Coley. Councilman Corbett.
Here.
You like that, huh? Councilwoman Eason.
Here.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
Present.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Here.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Present.
Council President Williams.
Present.
Also present is myself, Joyce Lanier, City Clerk, Mr. Smith, the City Attorney, Mr. Mapp, Director of Finance, Ms. Lascari, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Towns, Representative for the Legislative Research Officer, Mr. Mays, Administration Rep, and Ms. Holmier, Clerk's Office. The requirement of NJSA 10:4-9 et sec, the Sunshine Law, has been met. A notice of this meeting was sent to the Star Ledger and published in the record transcript on July 17, 2014, posted on the bulletin board in City Hall and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Item number 4, approval of the minutes. March 17, 2015, conference and regular.
Is there a motion to adopt?
Move.
Motion by Councilwoman Gaunt Butler, second by Councilman Johnson Jr. On the motion, I'm sorry, Councilman Corbett. On the motion, seeing none, roll call. Councilman Coley is absent. Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason. Yes. Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
In favor.
Councilwoman Johnson Jr.
In favor.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
In favor.
And I am in favor as well.
6 votes, 1 absent, motion passed. Reports. Constable reports. There are no constable reports to report. Oprah request for the month of April. Community service fee collected for the month of April 2015, $17,375. Oprah request. For the month of April 2015, there were 116 records requested under Oprah, of which 113 were provided, leaving 3 pending records, 3 requests pending. Council reports.
Councilman Corbett, is there any additional with the police department?
No, I just request that you have Director Wade on the agenda for our next council meeting.
The next council meeting, Councilwoman Easton, even though you kind of said it first, has asked about, Councilman Coley too, about Galaxy. If the budget is ready to go at the next council meeting, can we wait until the next one?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll all base that on whether the budget is prepared.
Yes.
And I'm sure Director Wade won't mind the additional time.
Oh, okay, thank you. Fire department,
No.
they actually, I believe the fire department has some updates. Am I correct? Because director had to, you want to come to death in his family. Director for the fire department, sorry, could not be here for the because he had death in his family. However, I believe there will be some updates. And Councilwoman Gaunt Butler, I'm sorry, he called this afternoon.
Okay.
Frank DeAngelis, the acting chief of the fire department. Just a couple of updates that we have. The department has commenced with the emergency medical responder training. It's our goal to have 100% of our firefighters certified by the end of the year. For those of you that don't know, the first responder is a 40-hour course that actually the new recruits just received in the academy, and now we're going to get the rest of the department up to speed. We're also trying to become the trainers for the rest of the city employees. So we're going to take that on. Anybody interested, we provide the first responder course, CPR training, and also the AED defibrillator training for anybody that wants that. We're exploring the possibility of cross-training with the University Hospital Rescue Company for bariatric patient removal. Bariatric patients meaning large-sized patients. We had one, I believe it was last year, very large woman on Park Avenue. There's a lot involved removing a patient of that size. So we're going to connect with UMDNJ and get cross-trained with them. We're also looking into training with New Jersey Transit as far as train accidents and derailments. Obviously in the news lately, big incident down in Philadelphia. On any given day, there's approximately 2 to 250 trains that come through Orange, and the possibility of a derailment it's a real thing. So we need to get trained and updated on that information. Also, any information that New Jersey Transit has on planes and other auto accidents. You know, we're being in such close proximity to Newark Airport or Newark Liberty Airport, the possibility is real. You know, a lot of times planes, when they're taking off and landing, usually is a time for an accident. So we're being in such close proximity, there is a possible threat. Also looking to implement our new dispatch software. Maplewood and Irvington actually started it today, and in conjunction with them, it's called Red Alert. It's an upgraded dispatch software, and we're trying to get on board with that, and that should be up and running probably within the next couple weeks. We're continuing the smoke detector program with the Red Cross, which has been very successful so far. We're still looking for more volunteers to get involved with that. And we're working in conjunction with the police department for the Junior Public Safety Academy. That's going to happen this summer. In the past, it was the police department did it on their own. This year, we're going to work together, and that'll be from July through National Night Out, I believe.
And for the Red Cross volunteers, they should just contact the fire department? I'm sorry.
Contact the fire department. Captain Spearman up in fire prevention. He'll be able to help anybody out that wants to help out.
Thank you. Council members, any questions for Councilwoman Eason?
Yeah. Do we know if we have a defibrillator at all sports events, and are the coaches trained? Have you met with the school district to make sure?
I can check. I can check for you. I'm not sure. Captain Padilla is one of the trainers actually, and he and 4 other guys took the train the trainer course, and I believe they were working on finding out who is and who isn't certified.
Yeah, because I also would talk to the superintendent, because I think in light of all of the athletes that's falling on the field, and we need to have the defibrillator at every game with the trained person there.
I believe for the high school athletics, it's mandatory that there be EMS personnel on scene.
But do they carry a defibrillator?
On the ambulance, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
I thought that was a mandate by the state that every school district had to have that.
I'm not sure. We just need to make sure.
The problem sometimes is that when it's state mandated, they have to be on scene. Mm-hmm. But as far as people actually knowing
where it is and how to use it is a different story.
Thing. But I'll look into that, and I'll get back to you with that.
Okay. Because I think that's a service you could offer to
Absolutely.
the school district for the coaches.
I don't know, Captain Padilla has mentioned
Right.
All the lifeguards in town. He wants to do school personnel, public works personnel, anybody that around the town, with connection to people.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, Chief DeAngelis, again, with the director, again, could you just announce that I think his grandmother passed?
His grandmother passed last week, yes.
Okay, and that's why he's not here. Thank you very much. Councilwoman Easton, ABC.
Yeah, just real quickly, probably at the next meeting or the one after, the ABC is gonna have two initiatives that I'm gonna need the support of the council. We are going to amend an ordinance if we need to make sure that no taverns are within 750 feet of each other going forward. We need to bring that forth, and also for we need to increase the side job money for the officers that work the side jobs at the taverns. So that's going to be coming up, and then also an amended ordinance in the next meeting probably, if we can get it drafted and on the agenda for the next meeting. So just if you need any information on it, need some discussion.
Talk up, Councilman. I'm sorry.
The ABC chair is available, so that will be covered before the council.
Council President?
Councilman Corbett.
Councilman Neeson, can you include liquor stores in that 750-foot radius?
Yeah, we're going to include any establishment selling alcohol.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilman Easton, Lanning.
Oh, I think I did announce we were getting the Taco Bell. Did I say
Yes,
that?
you did.
Yeah,
Last
so
meeting.
that's-
You want to re-announce it?
Yeah, that's the only update.
And when do you have a date?
No, they should be starting very soon.
Okay. And that's at
Hopefully they
Jefferson?
will open by September. Right, Mr. Mace?
At Jefferson Street?
Jefferson and Maine.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gordon Butler.
When you said Jefferson's, that made me think of Jefferson's Cafe. Is that coming on board, or do you know?
Is Jefferson's
Cafe.
restaurant at the old J&A's?
I know he's working on it.
Speaking to the microphone.
Speaking to the mic.
Directly
Jefferson's
into the
open
mic.
yet?
I know he's working on it. I can find out where he is.
And
That's not open.
No, it's
And
not.
it's not open yet, but I know
Okay.
he's working there.
Okay. Housing Authority.
Thanks, Council President. No formal report, but I just want to announce that the Orange Housing Authority is having their 75th anniversary on the 21st. I will probably have an opportunity to speak to the director to get kind of updated on some of the things that are happening in the area. I've been out of the loop for a while, so I will have a report going forward for the next meeting
Just provide the address.
of May,
Councilwoman Easton.
this Thursday.
Yeah. It's going to be at 340 Thomas Boulevard. Provide the address.
340 Thomas Boulevard.
Yeah. At
the
6
Orange-
o'clock.
At 6 o'clock.
What's going to
And
be at what's going
guest speaker will be Senator Richard Cody.
and what's going to be at 340, Councilwoman? Because you kind of did June
He just announced
the June
75th
21st
anniversary.
The 75th
Did
anniversary.
I get the date right?
The 21st,
The
yes.
21st.
Yes.
At 6 o'clock. Orange Housing Authority. 75th anniversary.
The keynote speaker is.
The keynote speaker is a friend of mine, Richard Cody.
Thank you.
340 Thomas Boulevard.
Oh my God.
The library.
Okay. I just want to, I was given some information, and I included in the report, so I just want to just tell you what I did. I was given information because we've been asking for another estimate for the roof, and Netta Architects came up. So I wasn't satisfied with just writing their name, so I called them today and asked them to send me the proposal that they sent, and that's why I wanted copies available for everyone, because I just needed to see what it was that they had even proposed. Because like I was saying, before you get something done, you would get 3 estimates for it, and I've only seen the 1.2 million, which we know we're not going to pay. And then this came, I just wanted, if the residents wanted to see what was out there, I wanted to try to get as much. That was a big thing. The other thing was there was a question of the computers and things that were donated. They were donated by a private donor who did not want his name disclosed. And my other concern was the fundraising. I asked 2 weeks ago for a list of the events that would be used for the fundraising. I haven't received that yet, but those are the 2 things that I'm working on, trying to get some clarity in, because I know they do have a fundraising chair, and I just wanted to try to find out more information on that. So those were the 2 big things, but I did have I think there's 7 pages of the Netta Architects, their proposal. Not saying, and another thing, this didn't come from the director. I just called them myself, and I just wanted something so that I would have something in my hand. And
And do you need the clerk's office to make copies?
they made copies. I think they made 30 copies. So there were some out there.
Okay.
You all should have it. Did you all get it? I saw it on your. Okay. All right. That's it.
Thank you.
Did you get it, Ms. Eason?
Josh, do you have a report for the Public Works Committee?
It's this meta thing. I'm sorry.
Everybody's talking.
Josh Sokolsky, Citizens Public Works Committee. We had our last meeting last Thursday, May 14th. Issues on the agenda aside from abandoned housing. For upcoming, we're
And
going.
I don't want to interrupt. I don't want you to get way into. If you can just, because of the back air conditioning, so everybody can hear what you're saying.
So, aside from addressing some and continuing to work on issues regarding abandoned properties and vacant properties, it was some other items came up that we have requested at our next meeting, either the liaison from PSE&G to come meet with us and address issues with them, that we can also bring citizens issues that we know are still out there to them, and maybe also in a future meeting, since I know the liaison is here, also work with the county to bring them out to one of our meetings, and hopefully address some of the county issues that are out there. One of the items that we touched on that we'd like to bring to council specifically is that for every one of you gets an appointee, just to look at your appointees, reach out to them. There is an attendance concern for some of at various points, and we'd like to make sure that we have a full working committee. If people are at this point, too busy, and life is life, and they need to do what they need to do, and we understand that. But if they can't serve, just ask them if they'd be willing to resign their place so that you can reappoint new members who are willing to and have the ability. I don't even want to say willing. I just have the time and the ability at this point to serve. That's one of the issues as well that we're addressing. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Can I ask Josh a question?
You sure can. Councilman Johnson Jr.
Thank you. I'm just curious. Have you ever thought about a recording video in your meeting?
Haven't considered it. We don't. I'd be willing to entertain that going forward. I'd like to make sure that we have a full working committee to do that. I don't want it to just be as we've had it. But I'd be if it's an. I don't know if also there are any legal ramifications, because it's not a public meeting. So I don't know if that's an issue. But we'd be willing to do that. We'd certainly like to hear from citizens also as well. I know I come to these meetings. I know Ms. Gordon comes to these meetings. If people want to start contacting us to bring to these meetings with the administration and council when we come, where we'd be happy.
And Councilwoman Eason as well.
Absolutely. And my apologies, Councilwoman Eason.
Finance Committee, in terms, we're still in the budget process. It was a public forum tonight. I was late.
Yes, we had a public. Council President, we had a public hearing with a little less than a half dozen people from the community, and the Citizen Budget Advisory Committee made a brief statement, and I guess they'll be in our presence tomorrow. So it's moving forward.
And we'll have the budget work session, which is a public meeting, but it's strict. The primary focus is the council going over the entire budget line by line with our budget consultant.
Council President.
Councilman Corbett.
Do you think we're going to go through that whole book tomorrow night?
If not, we'll set another date, but let's have a
You're not
goal in
talking in
mind.
the microphone.
I know.
Let's have a goal.
We're going by every line item in the book and do what we need to do.
Last time we did it in one night, but we were here till like 11 o'clock.
Yes, I know.
Right.
That's why I asked.
Councilwoman Eason?
And with us being here tonight and then tomorrow night.
Councilman Corbett to wear his pajamas.
Okay.
I don't think you can handle it.
There are no communications and petitions. Clerk, please move the agenda.
pursuant to Section 4-10 of the Code of the City of Orange Township. Each person addressing the council shall step up to the microphone, shall give his or her name in an audible tone for the record, and unless further time is granted by the presiding officer, shall limit his or her address to 10 minutes. The public is expected to conduct themselves in a proper manner. Any derogatory, abusive, or threatening statements will not be permitted. The chair will immediately rule such conduct out of order and terminate any further comments.
Oh, well, thank you, Ms. Hathaway. And while we're waiting for Ms. Hathaway to bring up the bill, Councilman Coley had to leave, and he just wanted everybody to know that he had to leave due to scheduling matter. Conflict, sorry. William R. Lewis.
Thank you very much, Council President, members of the Orange City Council. My name is William R. Lewis, live at 688 Mosswood Avenue. And again, I have another challenge for you. Some time ago, my daughter was in the 3rd grade, Hayward Avenue School. And I met with teacher Carol Lee Brown, who was the, later on, became the head of the OEA, and ultimately the principal at Lincoln Avenue School. In any event, Ms. Brown said to me, in talking about my daughter's performance in class, that she asked the class one day, can they think of a word that began with the letter U? My daughter raised her hand, she called on my daughter. My daughter said, ubiquitous. She's about 8, 9 years old now. But I married a smart woman. Anyway, so then Ms. Lee said, okay, give me it in a sentence. She said, you're ubiquitous, all over the place, and you get in the way of things. But Ms. Brown, Lee, I get confused, tells that story a lot, has told that story a lot over the years, many years now. But the whole point is that there was good performance by someone, recognized by someone else, and putting it in today's terms, all of us who serve public life, appointed or elected, owe it to the people who put us in that office to do a good job and be professional and do the best that you can do. I rose up through the ranks in AT&T, and no one ever had to say, I'm sorry I recommended that guy. And that's the way I conducted myself. And everyone talks about role models. Well, each of us, when we arrive at a point in time when we're supposed to be role models, and you need to think about that as you go through your life. Moving on, let's say you passed a piece of legislation and it was presented to you by Mr. Willis Edwards. And as I recall, Willis Edwards was rejected by you as a business administrator, rejected by you as the deputy business administrator with the concurrence of the court, and therefore he's not a CFO, he's not a planner, he's just another guy. He came up and did some razzle-dazzle with you folks, and you bought it, and you passed on what he said, presented to you. You know, you got to watch that. That's not best foot forward. Another item for you. The clerk is your employee. We had to go to court with the mayor on that, to determine who had jurisdiction over the clerk's office. But Dwight Mitchell's been gone. The clerk is a vital part of city government. And Mr. Mitchell was here as a councilman and then also as a clerk. But the question is someone calling him up periodically, see how he's doing, seeing if he's getting everything he's supposed to get, and does he need anything? And you might be interested. You know, he may have left a few friends around. They might be interested in hearing how he's doing today. one thing I forgot to mention, and that is, being from the South Ward, we pay 42% of the city's taxes. And yet, I feel it's not appreciated. And the concern I have is, where are your priorities? Orange homeowners are paying 20% more in taxes than they should be. You don't know how the mayor is paying his people. You complain to me. You complain to the public. Who's he hiring? People ate it willy-nilly. And yet we have a concern about getting some children here to lead the Pledge to Allegiance. And I question that because the Board of Ed has been doing that for years now. Why is the council wrapped up in something as frivolous as that when the residents here are paying 20% higher taxes than they should be, and you don't know how the money is being spent? You got to select your priorities properly and go after them. And I told you before that you probably walk around talking about how hard you're working, you're wiping sweat on your brow because all these committee things. I don't know where that belongs. It doesn't belong here. Now, just wrapping up here, Ordinance 21 makes rules for the budget process. Question you need to ask is, did you talk to the CFO about this? Did you get that buttoned up? And I'll go back to the last meeting when there's a big discussion about some piece of legislation here. And it turned out it was in Mr. Mays' bailiwick. And council asked Mr. Mays about it. He'd never seen anything. Now, I'm an engineer, and I don't have that much guts that I'll write some legislation for somebody else when I'm not in that line of business. So you need to talk. You need to communicate. That's the biggest thing in getting things done. And the reason why government gets off the track and winds up in trouble and makes the citizens pay for its mistakes in the form of higher taxes and silly stuff like that. Wait till the next report comes out about Obamacare. 70% increases. Historic Preservation Commission. Has this been discussed with the planning director? You got to make sure you coordinate there, touch base. Now, the last thing is Ordinance 23. I spoke about it before. Said that it's interesting that the state adopted that ordinance after talking to me and seeing what we had going on here, the controversy some years ago. They adopted that as the model for the state of New Jersey, and you guys want to get rid of it. And you only did partial. See, when you got to be careful. First of all, I'm a numbers guy. I'm a math guy. Eat, sleep, die, math. And generally speaking, when you do that analysis, you can get rid of your work very quickly. The thing is that if you took roughly what I and others have said, it's about 6 people who speak regularly here, and that they use up an hour. And the length of time of your meetings, the public only takes 15% of the time. Yet you want to pass a piece of legislation that says the state, that gets rid of something that the state has said is great, is a model for all municipalities in the state of New Jersey, based on the fault of residing with the public as to how these meetings run so long. And you don't have that far to look. You don't have to do the math. You just go back to the last meeting, and you had 3 speakers here speaking about some political stuff. Had nothing to do with it. Call for another meeting. I told you that before. You can have your pet projects. I don't care. But they don't belong here. I've written. I was a member of the Newark JCs, president of that chapter. And while there, I had a very good life growing up. And of course, I worked hard. But As a member of the chapter, I was selected by our president, then Don Filligar, who was a partner in Pete Mark and Mitchell, accounting firm, to go to President's School down in Princeton. And so I went. And you have to, they're saying, in effect, they're betting on the come that you're going to step into that position, which is competitive. And I did. I became the president, and so I had the honor
You have 1 minute.
of attending next year, taking along my candidate for future presidency. There's a whole philosophy that goes with this. You can't just slap together a piece of paper and say, I'm going to have a meeting. There's a reason for it. And you don't do that, and you time things out, just like you're timing me out now. You got to time out everything. You can't put 1,400 people on the doggone agenda and then expect to get out at 10 o'clock. Just carry it over. There's nothing that says you can't have a meeting the next week or the next day or 2 weeks from now, whatever. But make sure that you do the right thing. You know, fit in. When you do the math, do the whole math. The public is not responsible for these meetings running long.
And Mr. Lewis, you'll have another opportunity to come back up. There will be a public portion on that side. Jeffrey Feld.
Good evening again. My name is Jeffrey Feld, a local businessman and attorney whose local business address is 268 Main Street, Orange, New Jersey. As my custom, I posted various heads-up questions and comments on the city's www.nj.com public website or public forum. First, I think one of the things we all, I think, should be in agreement is about increasing transparency. And some things I just pointing out that the budget, not the budget, the bill list that was posted on the website for this meeting, we're having a constant problem that only the odd number pages are posted, the even numbers. This is like the second or third meeting in a row that the full bill list is not posted for the public to look at before the meetings. In addition, traditionally, proposed ordinances were posted on the bulletin board downstairs when you walk on the first floor. I don't know, sometime last week, the ordinances that you're considering tonight were removed for that bulletin board. We need to look into this. Also, when minutes are approved, going back to last year, not all the minutes that have been approved are posted on the city's public website. This needs to happen. That's in addition to the question of why the meetings aren't broadcasted live. On the 3 proposed ordinances that you're going to consider tonight, no city attorney has signed off on it. Earlier this evening, the Northward Councilwoman started pointing about, reading what the local administrative code requires. Prior, in a little while, when we consider them, for the interim, if you have an opportunity, look at section 4-14A and 429A and B of the administrative code prior to the votes. So I don't know whether you really have the authority to approve things that have not been signed off by the city attorneys. I too am very interested in the status of the YWCA acquisition, because yesterday various documents or responses were given to me pursuant to Oprah. The Warren administration admits that there's been no acquisition agreement approved by this council. So I don't know where we are. I don't know if that was just smoke and mirrors. We're in the status, again, with the budget, there's no line item allocations, but I think it might behoove us before we get into litigation, because we have a 45 days from April 13th, that maybe this council should really consider tonight rescinding that resolution and starting anew, approving it by ordinance, which I believe is required, and having the backup agreements attached. As to the bill list, I think many of us are concerned with the amount of money that's been spent prosecuting and defending the Willis Edwards 2 matters. I don't think anyone on this side of the podium has ever really been given an accounting of how much money we expended to date prosecuting and defending that action. I believe every time we retain an attorney for a case, there should be a cap that the council should be told, rather than having just a general shelf registration type of retention, that there should be a specific retention for a specific matter that this council knows. Because if you look at, I think it's page 9 of the bill list, there's various cases, that they're talking about being funded by the municipal fund. It's page 19, various the municipal insurance expenditures. Some of these actions I've never even ever heard discussed. We know about McGovern versus the city and Magnelli versus the city. We have Joe Wenzel now being asked for about almost $39,776 for labor matters for services performed in years 13, 14, and 15. This is one of the problems we have in the budget process, that we never know where these bills appear from that are coming over for days. I mean, City versus Brian Pianta, I never heard of. Housing Authority versus Weeks. These are some of these cases are the first time I've ever heard about it. Also on the bill list, there's a payment for $67,500 settlement, legal settlement. Can we maybe have some information what the name of the case is and what the matter was? Because that's a fairly hefty sum, and I don't think there's no information. It just has a law firm saying that check's going to, but I don't know what the matter was referring to. Things. Again, I was not here at the last meeting. I was in Atlantic City at an affordable housing conference, but I was told when I came back that there was a walk-on bulk sale tax lien sale certificate resolution was defeated. But in the interest of the Open Public Meetings Act and transparency, things like that need to be posted on the agenda. If they're non-emergent, they can't be considered. And hopefully tonight there will be no other non-emergent matters where the citizens aren't given a reasonable opportunity to be heard, of notice and to be heard. But hopefully tonight we can get some information as to the bill list, as to what that settlement is for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Feld. And Mr. Feld, just so we go, what page on the bill list is your page 19 that you printed
Yeah, page
down?
19, from what I downloaded from the website, it says municipal insurance expenditures.
Total amount 47,000?
Yeah, 47,139. And what I'm really concerned is, I forget what page it is. There's a page.
19.
Look at the bottom. No, it's on the top. It's on top of my page 19. Then it was page 1 of the check register, which has the settlement. It says law settlements to McHugh and Bornone for $67,500, and I just don't know what that settlement is about. Thank you.
I'll come back this minute. Caitlin Gordon.
Good evening. Kathleen Gordon, 211 Park Place. I have mostly questions. Okay. The first question, I am interested to know, in connection with the Board of Education,
relating to the Board of Education.
to my knowledge, at the last election, the public voted on the initiative to whether or not the Board of Ed members should be continue to be appointed or changed to be elected. And it is my understanding and recollection that the public voted for the latter, that is, the members should be elected. I noticed that the members are still appointed. Why is that? Is the public's will be accepted, heeded? Where are we with this? This is one question. And a remark is that in connection with, I was present at the Board of Ed's last meeting, observing the public hearing in connection with the firing of this young teacher by the name of Miss Zuniga, who who allowed her students to send get well cards to Mumia Abu Jamal. And I noticed how uninterested the board was in to listen to the nearly 30 public speakers who all except one person spoke for keeping the teacher. So this is the connection with my question. Question number 2. Also in connection, I will tell what the connection is. Is there an index available of previous year's ordinances and resolutions created by the clerk's office? And in particular, it came up because we at the Public Works Committee are interested to know the actual wording of how the Public Works Committee was created and its powers and responsibilities. Okay, number 3, I am also interested to know, in connection with the budget, whether or not the council has the right not automatically to increase the certain city official's salary, but possibly freeze or even decrease it depending on performance. Is it an automatic process to increase it whatever percent, or the council has a say in within the normal limits to allow increase, add to the increase, or take off the increase, freeze it or diminish it? That was number 3. And as number 4, I would like to ask you, Council President, to if you could pay more attention to the responses themselves that I receive. Most often you point to a city official to explain the question, to respond to the question. But many times the response is not really a response, an explanation to the question. I am going to give you an example from the very last council meeting. I inquired about the closing, previous closing of well number 6 in the South Mountain Reservation and replacing it with 6R. And why is that? And the response was just what it says in the resolution, or that the well 6 is not functioning anymore, and it was replaced by well 6R, and so now formally it is going to be closed. Well, that was not the question. The question was why. And so repeating the facts that are given in the resolution is not helpful. So if the public asks something, why is that, the public should get a response why that is, not what is. And this is just an example, and if you could pay attention and call on the city personnel to respond exactly how the question was asked, that would be very helpful. And I know I have a little time, but regarding Ordinance 23, regarding public comments, I would comment at the time of the public hearing. Thank you.
And Ms. Gordon, could you go back to your question number 3, the freeze and diminishment of increases of, repeat your question number 3 again?
Okay. Suppose a certain director has a salary, had a salary of $60,000 last year. And in general, the city is raising salaries to, I don't know, say 2%. The question is, do you have the right and do you have the inclination to not approve an automatic 2% increase depending on the performance of that director?
Okay.
Thank you.
Bruce Meyer.
Good evening, City Council. Bruce Meyer, Berkeley Avenue, and I certainly hope I don't take up the fast dwindling time for council comments. I did have several questions about the bill list. To see another $8,700 going to lawyers in the Edwards versus City Council lawsuit, and that continuing drain of money, I can't tell you how upset that makes me as a taxpayer and as a citizen. Since when does somebody come and employ themselves with you and you want to get rid of them, but you have to sue them and pay them at the same time and pay for their lawyers? There's no common sense in that at all, and I understand the council has done its best on this thing, but I think maybe a little more publicity about it, a little more waving the flag. This is the only city that I know of in the state, and I've been looking around, that is actually not working under the Faulkner Act as it's supposed to. It is illegal. Some of the other things that the city does, cross hiring with another city, their mayor, our lawyer, our mayor, back and forth. It may look bad, but I don't think there's anything you do about it, but it's still not that good. Now, I would like to thank our South Ward councilwoman for her work with the library, and specifically for bringing this architectural proposal to everybody's attention. You notice that the meeting with the director was March 27th, and this letter is April 13th, and that was time ago. If you look at this, basically they want to spend $35,000 so that somebody else can pick out a contractor to fix the roof. I can tell you that there are architectural drawings and evaluations of everything in detail from a law firm that was hired in conjunction with the historic grant. There's unbelievably a large amount of this sort of information on file about the library, to say nothing of the contracts for the last go around that were just a couple of really qualified people, both historic grant wise and for the technology that they are capable of doing on the roof. So I know all that stuff's there. It gets me a little upset when library board members and directors ask me to provide them for the information when it's, I had to get the information from them. Something's a little wrong there. Also, it is very upsetting to see, $35,000 for what? For somebody to go up on the roof again, and I guarantee you that every little bit about that has been explored and looked at over and over again. So just the fact that somebody is out there looking at $35,000 just to put out a bid makes me upset. It's almost as gets me as upset as having a hiring somebody to come in and do the budget provision demonstration talk for you. What is a director supposed to do but handle bids, handle money, handle talks before the city council, to say nothing of the fundraising that needs to go in the library. And again, I thank our South Ward Councilwoman for getting on their case. How many years has it been? And the only fundraising has been by groups that were not associated with the library. 0 funds. First thing I asked the director last year when he got hired, after shaking his hand and saying that we have a group that would protect him, help him, anything he wanted, we would give him. But the number one thing he has to do is get somebody to start working on fundraising. There has been no funds raised, and we're running out of that matching grant again. So this comes back to the budget process. I think you all know what I feel about the library in terms of it's a passion. I love it. But giving money to people that have no responsibility is something I'd be very careful of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Peter, I'm sorry, I can't read your writing. You can just... Faulknix.
Good evening. My name is Peter Faultings. I'm affiliated with Washington Bay Group. We have put in a bid to purchase tax liens from the city. As somebody who's known this city for the better part of 50 years, it needs help. Every place you ride around, there's buildings that are falling apart. There's empty lots. There's crime that's caused by that. If you talk to the police, they'll tell you that it's not a good thing that's going on. There are 120 or to 140 properties right now that we put a bid on. The city certainly could use the money. And I understand that's supposed to be voted on this evening, and I hope that everyone will see forth to vote yes in the affirmative for that, so that A, we can clean up the blighted area and help improve the city, and help give money to the city for various things that are needed. Does anybody have any questions?
It'll come, we'll come back when the council responds, but it wouldn't be at this time, Mr.
Well, Ms. Williams, let me ask a question, okay? I believe you have a brother.
You can't ask a question.
All right, then I'll make a statement.
You can make a statement.
The council president has a brother who owes $30,000 in taxes to the city for over 5 years. What kind of example is being set? If the motion is voted on, she shouldn't even be allowed to be in the chambers because it's a conflict of interest. I know that the resolution was filed in a timely manner. I checked it today. And are you telling me that it's not going to be voted on this evening?
I didn't say it wasn't going to be voted on, but I'll respond at the appropriate time.
When is that?
After after the citizens, when the citizens' comments are closed.
Okay. All right. And if it were not to be voted on tonight, I will file litigation tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. Joshua Sikowski.
I don't know who this guy is.
Joshua, do you leave? Is he across the hall? Joshua, he left? Okay. Murphy Wilson?
Good evening, Murphy Wilson, 362 Haywood. My comments are targeted towards Resolution 134, 2015, in reference to this amount of money to construct or to receive water on an emergency basis. Now, if we need to receive water, I mean, we had a presentation that we have some contamination, so if we need to receive water, I understand that. We need to have connection to someplace where we can receive water. I understand that. Why would you connect to East Orange? Not only have we had a nightmare history with them, but I mean, they were all in the news about contamination, corruption, and so forth. If you need to connect, I mean, don't tell us, well, we have contaminated water, so let's do an emergency hookup to somebody who's got even more contaminated water. All right? So I understand we may need some kind of backup, but not to this place. And we have history on this. Let's not make another crazy mistake. Just, you need to revisit this. Thank you.
Is there a motion to close citizens' comments?
Move.
Second.
But,
I'd like to address the council.
oh, are you coming from, you want to do it, 1 second, you want to do it in residents' comments, or you want to do it, you can respond as a, you can do it as director, are you, because if you're talking about what I think about, just gonna, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, motion by?
Corbett.
Motion by Councilman Corbett.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Gaunt Butler. Roll call, Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
In favor.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
And I am in favor as well. Council comments? Nobody? Councilman Corbett?
Yes, there was some discussion tonight about the contract that we have with our garbage collection people. And I got a report today about the leaf bag pickup over on Haxton. And there was an exchange with the garbage truck. And the issue was when they exchanged, the garbage from truck to truck, there was a mess left out on Haxton. And no, I don't think anyone picked up the trash. So the resident wanted me to tell you that the departments need to show some respect to the citizens that pay a lot in taxes. And of course, that is coming from the South Ward. The decals on the vehicle, I'm glad to see that the decals are there, but I'm not happy to see the other information that's beneath those decals. I think that's a waste of taxpayers' dollars. I think it's taking advantage of advertisement at the city's expense. And I really want to see that piece removed. I think you know which one I'm referring to. And then I'll deal with the ordinance that should be coming back in our next council meeting for final vote on the revision to the resolution about the vehicles. I think it's June 4th, I think that is coming back. And I'll address that at that time. Thank you, Council President.
And I'm going to pause right there with citizens on council comments. I have to go back and answer the question. Going back, I apologize, Councilwoman. The questions that were by the public, we didn't respond to them. So we can pause for a second. Because I see you looking like you want to say something.
I guess I'm confused. You going to respond to the questions?
We did. The citizens had questions that were not responded to.
Are you going to do it now?
Right.
Or
I'm
you
saying we're going to
asking us
pause
for
with the
comment?
council comments, and then we're going to. Yes.
Oh, then you'll go back to council
Right, yes,
comments.
ma'am. Yes. 134-2015. Ms. Wilson, that was put on hold, and the council asked the administration to bring back comparisons from other municipalities. The clerk's office has not received any other comparisons from other water companies or other alternatives to use at East Orange, so that will probably be postponed to the next meeting as well, because the clerk's office has not received that. Mr. Peter, can you spell your last name, please?
Faltings.
Yeah, and I will, the legal part, I will wait to allow the attorney to answer, but that was not put on the agenda because the administration did not bring it to the clerk's office in a timely manner. Let me, you can't respond. Let me just respond, and you can have a conversation. And even when the clerk's office gave a further extension, all of the information was not responded to in a timely manner. If you need to have a conversation, the city attorney is here, but that is, it did not make the agenda in a timely portion. In terms of my brother Mark Williams being on his business being on that list, I am not involved in my brother's personal business, nor do I have personal conversations. I have been a lifelong resident of Orange. There are probably several people I know on that list. I have not looked at the list line by line, piece by piece, by way of church affiliation or various things. It's, you know, it's the nature of being in the city of Orange.
Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman.
I'm sorry, the city attorney wants to weigh in on that. He
okay.
has some legal reasons why you...
Okay.
In light of the fact that he's discussing litigation.
Let me, okay,
No,
just
you-
let,
you-
stop. Okay, I'm not stopping him, Count. I'm just saying everybody else stopping. I'm just, so that
what
Attorney
he's
Smith.
trying to tell you, you
No, I heard
should
you.
not be responding.
Okay, okay.
So let's cut that off.
Did you want to say, go ahead, Attorney
Because he's
Smith.
indicated a desire to litigation.
Oh,
is
that
not
he's
for open
thinking,
meeting.
okay,
It's not a
all right.
topic for us.
I agree, I apologize, okay.
But
Council members, could you please, go ahead,
I
Attorney
guess
Smith.
but you can respond, I guess, to whether it was
Timeliness?
timely
Right.
filed or not.
Okay.
And so you're free to comment
The
as to when it was
timeliness-
received by the clerk's office and what decision was made as at the time it was received.
Ms. Lanier?
The resolution itself was received without the proper backup, and then we were asked that they give it back to us on Friday by 2, and then we still didn't receive it. We received it this Monday, and even at that point, the resolution had to be rewritten.
So in terms of timeliness.
But
Go ahead, I'm sorry,
I
Attorney
believe
Smith.
Ms. Cooper would like to make a
I'm
statement.
getting ready to say, was that what you wanted to respond to,
in
Ms. Cooper?
response to that.
Actually, a couple
No,
comments that
come to the
citizens
mic.
made.
Come to, not, you can't respond to the citizens, to the council.
Well, they asked a bunch of questions. I had answers for them.
Okay.
So, technically, according to the code, Tashami Cooper, Chief of Staff for Mayor Warren, according to the code just talks about resolutions being turned in a timely fashion. The code does not speak to any attachments or the requirement of attachments or when attachments should be turned in. Technically speaking, the resolution was turned in on Wednesday last week.
Ms. Cooper, one second. Members of the public, so that everybody can hear and the record is clear, please allow Ms. Cooper to respond. Ms. Cooper.
The resolution was turned in last Wednesday, and I do apologize to the council as I have the other week. Unfortunately, with a new staff person in the position, they were not fully aware of all the procedures. That's why the other week, the resolution was attempted to be walked on. I agree with you. I do not like the practice of walking on resolutions either, but considering the timeliness of the offers that we received, the mayor felt that it was imperative that we brought it to council. He did his due diligence by saying, there's a gap, you got 100+ properties that haven't paid in X number of years. So he went out and asked the tax collector, what are the options that we have before us?
Who's he?
Who's he? Carl Smith.
Okay.
At the time. Carl Smith was asked, how can we get these 100+ properties to pay? Because contrary to some of the information that some of you have received, the city of Orange Township does a tax lien auction every year. There's 565 municipalities in the state of New Jersey, and we all converge to start to do tax liens anywhere from August to September. Why? Because we anticipate that a number of people are not going to pay. So we have to figure out alternative ways to bring that money in. So the list that you have before you is a compilation of a number of years that after they go to auction and nobody buys those liens, you only have 2 options left. If you go back to January, Carl Smith gave you all a very detailed presentation on what can you do with these tax liens. Why did he do it? Because some of them are honest from 2000, 2001. That's a very long time. So at this point, when they didn't sell at tax lien auction, you only have 2 choices left: bulk lien sale or foreclosure. When you all first approved the administration to go out to auction in April, since that time period, you've had 11 people come in and redeem and get their properties off that list. Just on Friday, the church came in and paid their $30,000+ for that water lien that they had to come off the list. Under this option, the city would receive $1.7 million within 30 days. And thereafter, this group will be required to pay the next quarter taxes that are due, which are $200 and something plus $1,000. So we're talking about bringing into this year's budget almost $2 million. Every dollar that you collect this year
will push down the tax levy that will be due on property owners this year. What's the risk that's involved? I've been asked by some council members. No, we don't do credit checks. No, we don't do background checks. We don't do any of that. Why? When people come in every year, according to the statute, to participate in tax liens, we don't ask who they are. We don't ask where their business is. We don't ask how long you've been around. All we care about is that you produce an earnest deposit in the form of a cashier's check, a certified check, that you make the balance due. That's what we ask.
I'm sorry, when you say when the person purchasing the bulk tax lien, you don't do a credit check on them, is what you're saying?
We don't.
I'm just trying to see who you're referring to.
We don't, because you're not required.
I'm just trying to make clear, because you keep saying he
I'm
is.
saying you
Okay,
don't.
all right.
We don't do one.
No, I just
because
want to
by
be clear.
statute you're not required to. Now, me and being the type of person that I am, and my background in finance and real estate development, I did do a credit check. So
No, I'm not asking you to do. I just wanted to clarify who you were speaking, who you do the
the
credit
group,
card.
the group, Washington Bay. That's their name. So, although we did an informal credit check, and to make sure that they had access to funds, because who wants to waste their time going down the rabbit hole with a group that might not produce or be able to close? The proposal that's before you is saying that after council adopts, they have, I think, 5 days to produce the 10% non-refundable deposit. If they don't bring that in, they get nothing. From that point, they'll have 30 days to close finance and to bring us a balance. If they don't bring us a balance, guess what happens? They don't get their 10% back, and they won't get any access to any properties. They won't get it. So the ball is still in your court. You still have all the control. The risk is very little to you. If they don't perform, they don't produce, you don't give them anything. But the next step that we will take is starting to foreclose on their properties. And I can tell you now, some of you are concerned about people losing their homes and having access to have an opportunity to regain their property rights. This is the best avenue, because going and negotiating with this group will give them an opportunity to get on the payment plan. Legally, we can't offer that. We came before you last year and asked for installments. We did it. Less than 20 people showed up and took advantage of those installment plans that forgave amnesty. That's 18% interest.
Ms. Cooper, you're going, so you want to respond to him in terms of timeliness, and so you said your response that you believe that the statute does not speak to the backup of the resolution, just it speaks to the resolution alone.
I'm not an attorney, but I would divert to Dan Smith, but my reading of it only speaks to the resolution. The other thing that I would say to you is this. Some of you asked me, what's the urgency? In the financing world, your financing is only good for X number of days. Because why? You have other projects in the pipeline. So if I tie up my money waiting for this project to come through, that means I'm foregoing on another. So that's one. So if you read the two proposals before you, one of them clearly say this offer is only good for 30 days. The other thing is, if we don't entertain this group and someone asks, can we go back out to bid? Sure, you can go back out to bid, but let me tell you what's going to happen. You're not going to get any responses. Why? I personally met with 10 tax lien holders. Where did I get that list from? People who buy our tax liens every year, all the time, from Carl Smith. And you know what their responses were? You had a group last year that was offering you $1.5 million. Your budget consultant, Dita Lurch's office, recommended that council approve that bid because it was 49 cents on the dollar that group was offering, and council said no. This year, we're almost in a similar boat. If you do the math and take off the interest, you're getting almost 45 cents on the dollar this year. If you say no, the marketplace will not take Orange serious. They will say that you don't have your act together, and nobody else is going to respond. So that group, the gentleman that just spoke, is going to take his money to another town that willingly wants it. So again, I would beg the council to please consider this resolution that we tried to follow the rules for. We sent it up Wednesday. I agree that the young lady forgot to bring the attachments, but the resolution was sent up last Wednesday. Because if to walk away from this, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, and they're not going to come back. Thank you.
Council President, can I finish the response?
Wait, before you leave, one of the things you need to clarify, which we just, the money that we get, the 1.7, will not impact this year's budget.
It will.
No, and according to our budget consultant, it will not. So I'm just asking.
Councilwoman
how you
and
gonna
Mr.
make
Matt,
that happen.
let me just let them come up. Let me answer the other questions, and then we can come back to this after we answer the other questions. Just a second, Mr. Matt. Excuse me, Mr. Cooper. Just a second. let me go back to the other questions, and then we can come back to this during during council comments. Give me 1 second. Regarding 23, you reserve. I'm going to Mrs. Gordon. 23, you're going to reserve toward the public comments. Regarding directors' increases to freeze, diminish, maintain, Ms. Gordon, the council approves. Our employees are contractual, so that's your line, your fire, your police, and your non-uniform employees are contractual employees. So they're approved through contracts. The directors, the normal course of actions after their contracts are approved, then the administration comes back and asks can they have a raise the same or similar to the council. The council cannot target specifically a director if, for whatever reason, that will be a council action through the salary ordinance or just to freeze it. And that has not come before this council. And as we had stated, the increases that were given to the directors thus far were improper. Regarding the Orange Board of Education, that was a referendum, a poll referendum to see if the citizens of Orange wanted, 1, a full-time mayor, and 2, an elected school board. And that was done during the same time as the governor's race, and both were asked in the affirmative. The next thing the council can go back and do is by referendum change, if it's specifically about the board, change it by referendum or through action of the city council, but that has not been done yet. There is an index of both resolutions and ordinances in the city clerk's office, and that specific ordinance will be available for the Public Works Committee tomorrow regarding that ordinance. Mr. Attorney Dan Smith, Mr. Feld asked about settlements that were mentioned in the bill list. Could you give any response to what the settlements were for?
The only settlement
to the mic.
The only settlement that he made reference to, which was previously discussed at our special meeting regarding the outstanding litigation, had to do with the Vidiello case in the Board of Ed, the Vidiello Board of Ed case. That's what that dealt with. That's what the sum is for. Okay. And our share of the settlement.
Okay. And regarding the municipal insurance fund, a total of $47,000.
That is
page 19.
I don't have that.
There.
And I'm sorry, is this question whether we have settled cases from the insurance fund?
What is the $47,000 for?
That's what's budgeted for the insurance
Did you see
fund.
the line item? Did you see it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Look, this is budget received, budget total.
I can't. You got
It's
to talk.
reference
I can't
to-
even hear you.
It's referencing the amount of money that was budgeted for the insurance fund. Looks like the. But I will go back and see if there's been any. We haven't sent any other settlements to the body yet, so I will be more than happy to see if there's any other settlements that we need to. That Mr. Fell might be questioning us about.
Okay. And then he spoke of ordinance 20. What? There's no signature.
And which one is that?
All the ordinances that are on tonight's agenda. 21, 22, and 23.
I believe that we have previously issued an opinion regarding our position regarding those particular ordinances.
All 3 of them?
If it's, well, I don't have, in my packet, I don't have all of them. I have the.
So it's the ordinance.
But generally, those were dealing with the procedural issues and changing the administration
Once the
and we had-
historic preservation is 22, 21 is regarding fiscal procedures, and 23 is regarding the time during the public. Just a second.
They were previously signed. They were right. They were previously signed during the first reading. Now, where there is an issue might be on 21, because that, and I don't have both sides on that, but on 23 and 22,
They were previously signed.
those have been previously presented as part of the first reading and were signed.
And 21 is,
21 I thought was signed.
And 21,
there was never a signature?
on the first,
Uh,
I'll have to take a look, but 21, I believe, was also signed. What was not, two different 21s here.
Okay, so you'll have to respond to that while we're in public forum. And I think that was it. Now going back to
21 was not signed,
21 was not signed.
and I think we had submitted, stated
I
a
thought
reason
21
for,
was signed,
and stated
18
why
was
we did
not.
not sign it.
Council President.
21 was signed per Councilwoman Gordon Butler. 18
I think it
was
was
not.
18 that
That
was
was
not.
not signed.
At this moment, we need to look at those ordinances, and I'll be happy to respond to Mr. Feld directly on that.
You will go and look at it
Yeah, because,
this evening?
yes.
Okay. And 22 and 23 were previously signed.
Yes.
and So this is just an unsigned copy. That's correct?
Correct.
All right, we can check all of those this evening, and we'll be during the public session. Ms. Cooper and Mr. Matt, you were about to say? And Councilwoman, I'm sorry, where'd you leave off? I'm sorry, Councilwoman Eason. You were, during the money regarding the 1.7 million, you spoke to the budget consultant. It was represented that this money would not go into this budget year, Councilwoman. Is that what you were saying?
That's what she was saying.
Let me, Councilwoman Eason?
That's what we found. Because I can understand all of your due diligence, and I can also understand everybody's frustration. And I can understand what you're saying. But one thing I want to say, and this is just for me, in good conscience, and you know I voted for it the last time, I have to prove things that I believe is the right thing for the residents and make sure that we have dotted every I and crossed every T. And we do have a budget consultant that we pay to give us good advice, and we have other people that's part of this council, because I am not an accountant, nor am I a financial person. That's why we pay a budget consultant. And when our budget consultant comes to us and give us information, we have to believe that they know what they're talking about. And Ms. Cooper, you're not a budget consultant, nor a financial, and I understand what you're saying. And I understand all of the hype that you have on this and all of the things you said. But in good conscience, until I'm full, and you know, everything has to be on a level of trust and belief. Mm-hmm. And right now, I'm not there. So I'm saying, I understand all of that, but right now, I'm not there. And if I'm going to believe with our budget consultant that it's not going to impact this year's budget, I have to believe that, because we're already into May, soon will be June, and by the time all of this comes to play, it will be next year.
Wait, can I respond? Because I don't want to miss your questions.
Right,
1 second, Ms.
Okay.
Cooper, allow her to finish.
And Mr. Mapp is going to get up and tell us one thing, and you know in the past, I don't put a lot of credibility in what he tells us either. So we have to do our own due diligence as council people. That's what we get paid to do for the residents. And I don't want Mr. Mapp to respond. If anybody responds to this, I want to hear from Carl Smith.
Before Carl come up,
Well, I think you told us everything you
No,
need
no, no.
to know.
I'm responding to your question that you just asked me.
You made a statement. Just a second, Ms. Cooper. Just a second. Ms.
I
Councilwoman
did ask you
Easton
a
made a
question. What was the
statement.
question I asked
The
you?
question was, our budget consultant told you that this was not going to impact this
And
budget.
that's what I said. I didn't ask you to respond to that. I don't need you to respond to that. We want to hear from Carl Smith to come up and give us his analogy of how this tax lien happened.
But Carl can't answer that part, is what I just wanted you to know.
Well, he's the one that put the bulk lien
He
together.
put the bulk lien together. He did all the work. You're absolutely right.
Right.
But what happens is, if you all do approve this, we have to apply to the state to ask permission to include this money in the budget for this year. So you are correct. It's not an automatic inclusion into the budget. We have to ask for permission. And if we have the contract in hand and a check in hand,
But see, that's a little tidbit that you guys neglected to tell us until we brought it up. And that's what I'm saying. If you're going to put your cards on the table, put all of the cards on the table. Hold it. From our discussions previously, you led me to believe that it was an automatic 1.7 was going to lower the taxes for the residents and we were going to move forward. You never said you were going to have to get state approval.
let me
That's what I'm
apologize
saying.
if I was
Ms.
not
Cooper,
clear.
I'm saying-
Cooper, please
that's
do
all I'm
not-
saying. When you give us the ball, give it all to us, the upside, the downside, you know, what could happen, what could not happen, and what things need to, and that didn't happen. So that's why I said it was a trust factor, because we get little bits and pieces from you guys, but y'all never tell us the whole story. So the whole story is, if we prove this bulk lien, we still got to apply to the state to let us include it in the budget for this year, because you made a statement that it was going to help us lower the taxes, which was not true. If the state says no, then it has to go into reserves and for next year.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
what
correct.
I'm saying.
I just want to apologize because you're right. I didn't walk you through the entire process. You are correct. That I did not do. Carl?
Carl Smith speaking, tax collector.
Just walk us through the bulk tax thing. I mean, so that we fully understand what
Yeah.
happens day one, day two, you know.
Yeah, let me explain the process. I'm statutorily obligated to hold a tax sale each year. Each year, these are property owners who are not paying either water, sewer, and property taxes. Especially the last 3 or 4 years, we're starting to see an increased number of liens that are not selling. These liens become a burden to the city. Each year, each quarter, these people are not paying their taxes and are receiving services. So the administration decided, and I agree with them, why don't we entertain and bundle these liens up and sell them? It's been done in Jersey City. It's been done in Patterson. We decided that once we did this process, that we had a credible investor who liked what we had, and I thought it was a good deal. I'd agree with them. And my recommendation is that we do this deal. We do this deal.
And if the deal is passed, the next steps would be,
The next steps is this. First of all, we have an influx of money. That could be either in this year's budget or next year's budget. Number 2, the lien holder will have to pay the subsequent taxes, which means the taxes that are due, in order to begin a foreclosure process. So there'll be additional money that'll be coming into the city's coffers. That's not even included in the resolution tonight. Number 3, the property owners are not going to be losing their homes right away. The lien holder still have to file a complaint with the foreclosure unit in the state of New Jersey. That process is going to take anywhere between a year and a half. In the meantime, the property owners will still have the opportunity to come and redeem their liens. So they're not going to get thrown out tomorrow, next week, or next month. There is a process.
so really the bulk sale is to encourage people to come in and pay off their liens if they want to hold on to their property?
Yes, it's no different from if the city were foreclosing ourselves. The difference is that this has become a savings to the city. If the city decides to foreclose on ourselves, now we're the ones who are paying for the title work, for the additional work, for the advertising. By my estimates, to foreclose on all the liens that we have, that could be easily $200,000. Then once you acquire the property, then you have to go to the business of auctioning off the properties again.
And if the 1.7 doesn't materialize?
You have two options. Either the city can foreclose on the property itself, or we can sell the liens individually.
Councilwoman, you finished?
I'm done.
And just for clarity, this council has never said no regarding specifically the bulk lien. The council had actually given a plan of action a year ago, and it was more of, I think there was a 60-day tax amnesty, then there was, if a greater percentage of the money came in, that the tax collector was allowed to set up a payment plan to receive it, and I believe you received some funds during then. And after that, there was to be a general tax lien sale, and then after the tax lien, whatever was left over, then the bulk sale was to come. What the conversation going back forth is that we keep getting to the bulk sale without doing the whole process of trying to get the maximum amount of dollar. And it seems that it keeps that every time it's presented at 49.50% on the dollar as opposed to a greater amount. And so that was the item that was discussed with the council and the tax collector even a year ago. But only the thing that was done, I believe last June, was the 30 or 60-day amnesty, but nothing else was done in terms of a general tax sale as opposed to a general tax lien sale as opposed to a bulk. It's just continued to come back to the bulk sale.
Well, we did have a tax sale last year.
After June,
we had our tax sale last year in September.
Okay.
I mean October. I'm sorry, October last year. So again, like I said, we're statutory bound to hold a tax sale
every year. So
every
after
single
you had
year.
and you did everything in steps, and so
We
you did one.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
We did the amnesty in June and July, and we also offered installment plans, but the response was very lukewarm.
And out of the amnesty, I think you said you got 10 persons that came up during that. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And then this is not the same person that came last year. This is a new person that came last year.
That's correct. This is a different investor from last year.
Are there any more? And this is not on the agenda tonight, and it would be up for a reconsideration tonight. Is that what the administration was asking, Mr. Smith? A motion to reconsider or a motion to walk on this again? Which one?
A motion to reconsider.
Okay.
Which means we have to walk it on. If we voted down, it was voted down.
But I'm saying, but it wasn't presented as a motion to reconsider. It was a motion to walk on. So this would actually be a motion to reconsider from last week, which was walked on. Mr. Feld, go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that the people who are in, or the properties that's in the bulk assignment, are people that we try to sell liens at my general tax sale each year. These are liens that we offer to investors who did not buy these liens. So we made an attempt to sell these liens every year. When they don't sell, then we hold these liens on. It becomes an asset for us that needs to be disposed.
Council President,
Councilwoman Easton.
through you to Ms. Cook, was there a revised list removing the church?
Yes, there was. The St. Matthew's properties were taken off after we did the research and realized that that was from a project many years ago that should have come back to the city because the project wasn't done. And the recent church had the water lien that they came in and satisfied on Friday, so therefore they were taken off the list.
So there's a revised list.
So what happens is this: if you all approve this, each time a person comes in to pay, they will be removed off that list. They'll be removed. So what you see before you hasn't been updated. I'd have to talk to the tax collector's department to see how many more came in. If you recall, when you did this back in April, between April and last week or the week before, you had about 11 to 12 people that came in and redeemed because they saw your advertisement, because legally we have to send them notice to let them know that your property is going to be sold at a bulk auction. This is the process, and this is what you can come in and do. 12 people came in and made that payment. The church came in on Friday and made their payment. And I want to note for the record, we had been trying to call the church. We had been trying to work with the church to get them to come in, especially when we had the amnesty period last year, to set them up on a payment plan, and they did not materialize. And Carl also was the one who recommended the time period, the 10% down payment and the 30 days payment of whatever the balance, the difference is between those two numbers. So we went off the recommendation of the licensed expert. We went off what Carl recommended because we are not in a tax collection field. We went off whatever he recommended based on what other municipalities do.
So again, the administration is asking the council to do a motion to reconsider.
Yes. I'm sorry.
How can it be a reconsider when we didn't pull it off? We voted it down. So it has to come back as a new resolution.
One of the individuals
well, no.
who voted on the winning side can make a move to have the vote.
Can't hear Dan.
My clerk is saying that's not the way, that it has to come back as a new resolution, because we voted it down. We're not reconsidering it. We voted it down.
If one of the individuals who voted in favor of defeating this motion requests a reconsideration of that vote, the body can entertain that.
For those who voted nay, if they do a motion to reconsider,
Yes.
offer the nays.
Someone who voted nay.
But what had been presented to Ms. Lanier all week was that if it can come back, not to do a motion to reconsider, it was if it can be walked on with the corrected information. And that was not presented
She's
as
correct with that, because the
Correct.
language does not say motion to resolution to reconsider. She's correct with that part. It does not say that. She's right.
So then going back to what Councilwoman Easton said, I'm sorry.
It has to be walked on.
So if it was voted down, it's coming back as a new resolution. This has with a new number and everything. Council members, we need a motion for executive session. Is there a yes or no, or do we need to just move the agenda? Is there a motion for, I'm sorry, is there a motion, not a yes or no, I apologize. Is there a motion?
Could we that we hold that to after council comments? And then you go into executive session?
After the council comments?
Yeah, after.
Or if there is going to be a motion.
Do it after council comment.
Okay, Councilwoman Eason.
Council President, he just had one final comment. Thank you.
Tax Collector Carlson is speaking. I just want to put one last caveat. With the bulk assignment, I just want to make perfectly clear that the lien, the people who put up for resolution are not required to do a credit check or provide any type of financial disclosure. This is not a regular bid. It's not required in the statutes. So the administration has vetted this investor, and we feel like this is the best deal for the city.
The administration has vetted the amendment. Okay. Councilwoman Eason. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Smith. Councilwoman Eason, you're up.
I know what you're saying by stature, but we all human, right? So we need to know what we're doing, right? So that's all I'm gonna say.
Your council Your council comments, Councilwoman Easton.
All right. I think I was talking about, we were talking about decals, right?
Yes.
And
you asked for the 176 to come off the agenda.
And I wanted to read something to Mr. Mays. I know I'm picking on you tonight, but about city vehicle decal. Are you familiar with section 2.3 of the code? All motor vehicles owned or leased by the city, with the exception of the motor vehicle furnished the mayor, unmarked motor vehicles assigned to the police department, detective branch, the cars assigned to the deputy chief of law enforcement, police department, the arson investigator, the chief administrator's office car, the assistant chief administrator, police officer's cars, and the fire chief's car shall display in a prominent location a decal replica of the seal of the city, not less than 8 inches in diameter on each side of the motor vehicles. All motor vehicles are required to display decal with a vehicle identification number below each decal. Such number shall be at least 3 inches high. Are you familiar with that, Mr. May?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, so we are out of compliance. So, and I think that leads to Councilman Corbett's concern. So all of the motor vehicles, except the ones that has an exception, that means the white truck that sits in front of City Hall all of the time, everything needs to have a decal. Everything. And I'm surprised that we as the council didn't get a chance to vote on what it should look like, because I think it should say City of Orange Public Works Department. That's what the other cities have. So we need to get our vehicles in compliance as soon as possible. It doesn't say anything about the mayor's name being up there, because we know we buy things long term, and long term means that the decals we put up there should last for the life of the vehicle. So when I hear that you put a decal up there that can't be stripped off, well, you know, once you go through one summer, it's embedded in the truck, so you strip it off, it makes our trucks look old all over again. So I'm asking you, as the Director of Public Works, to make sure, as soon as possible, all of our vehicles are in compliance with the state law. That means any other writing that doesn't say City of Orange should be removed immediately.
So, Council, should we come up with ordinance that specifically states that, or that will be included in?
I'm reading from the code, directly
Okay.
from the code.
Okay.
It's already approved by the state, and that's what we need to be in.
We need to adopt, or just bring adopt the states.
Take
make
it one
local.
step further. And I know Councilman Corbin's been on this bus a long time, trying to get no city-owned vehicle furnished to a city employee should be driven by such employee from his place of work to his residence, or from his residence to his place of work. At all times when the vehicle is not being used on city business, it shall be parked in a designated space in proximity to the place of work of the person to whom the vehicle is furnished.
Director Mays, anything?
It does not apply to vehicles assigned to specified employees of the police department, which employees are specifically granted for driving on an assigned vehicle from their work or residence by the chief of police, nor the chief of the fire department assistant. So it only people that can do that are our fire personnel and our police personnel. Any such to employee of the city is furnished as a matter of privilege, not of right, and is not part of any employment contract. The vehicle may be withdrawn from the employee at any time.
Council President.
I just want to make sure, I'm reading that into the record, because going forward, we need to be in compliance. We put a lot of money in city vehicles, and the surest way they can get torn up and destroyed is having people use it for their personal use. So when they're not being used on city business, they should be in a designated spot somewhere in this city. And we need to start monitoring that and taking inventory at certain times, off hours, to make sure our vehicles are where they should be. Not only that, the second piece of it is the gas. Because when you're driving those vehicles, it gives the employee the opportunity to use the city-owned gas card to gas up that vehicle, which is costing taxpayers more dollars. So starting tonight, with our new vehicles, we have to be in compliance with the state law.
Council President,
Council,
I just want to chime in. If Councilwoman Easton is done, or if she wants to come back to her comments, I just want to interject at that point. Councilwoman, I thank you for bringing that out to light. I would like to give the administration 1 week, including this week, to remove that information, that additional information that's on those vehicles, and we need to come up with a plan for those folks who are going to be in non-compliance, because I'm sure we're going to get resistance. So we have to figure out what our recourse is going to be for those individuals who consistently say, I don't care what the council say, I'm taking it home with me, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm not going to put a decal on it. That type of behavior has to stop. And we already have an attorney on record that's working for the council. I don't want to see us go down that road, but we have to figure out what we're going to do for those jokers, and excuse my language, who continue to play games with the council when it comes to this issue.
Are you finished, Councilwoman Easton?
I'm finished.
Councilwoman Butler?
No comment.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Yes, thank you, Council President. I do have a comment. I think somewhere down the line, the council is getting attempted to get stripped of some dignity, because the actions of some people coming before this council, talking in the tone and manner that they do about matters, is unacceptable. We as council people will receive information from the administration or whatever, and we make our decision based on the moment of that information and whether or not it's voted up or voted down. We don't need anybody in here coming in here making subtle threats, coming in here really don't know what happened at the last meeting and injecting what they perceive as what going on. I think it's getting a little out of hand, and I'm sitting over here steaming and brewing. If anybody wanted to present themselves in a professional manner and want to be heard as a professional, they shouldn't be coming in here threatening this council. And I'm not going to take a back seat to any of that stuff without speaking up. We are doing the best we can with the information that we had, because we represent all the people in this town. And we shouldn't be questioning of our motives on why we are dissecting the information and making it vote. I don't care how many cowboys come rolling up in here saying this and saying that about the council. But, Council President, I think the stuff needs to stop, period.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson Jr. Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
My concern has nothing to do with any of that. My concern, Ms. Lanier was trying to help me out with trying to figure out how to get information out to my ward, as far as sending letters out for meetings and things, because it's extremely frustrating, because there's really no way to contact our residents at all other than email, and they don't have email. It's just really hard. And I know you did give an estimate of how much it would cost. My question is there a way, because I went before Mr. Lee to ask to go through the school system, and he said no, but it was like him saying no personally, and I need to know how that can work, because as being a Newark teacher, I constantly send things home for the wards and the mayor and things like that, and that's how they get the large turnouts. It's impossible to expect residents to know that we're having meetings. We can't hang signs up. Yes, it goes on the website. Yes, it goes on Facebook. But again, that shuts out many of my residents. So I'm just at a loss for words on how I can contact the residents. If by mail is $1,400 from my ward, just approximately, which no one's going to pay that. So I just don't know.
And that's per mail.
And that's per mailing.
Could I offer, Councilman?
Yes.
Easton?
Yes.
You're not gonna like this, but
Door to door.
Door to door.
Yes,
That's what
that is
I
going to
put
happen.
on-
Yes, it is.
Put on my sneakers on a Sunday afternoon, and I go door to door.
Yes.
The apartments I can't get into, I tape a piece to their window.
Right.
So.
I was
and
just
that-
saying,
yeah,
just
because you can get students, some kids to do that.
right now. I was just saying, just using it as another suggestion. When I drive through East Hanover, there's a certain area when you're coming off exit 4A where I don't know, I call it political lane because they have the big signs. Just it wouldn't be all the time, but there has to be a central location for residents to find out about stuff because that's the big complaint. They would love to come. They see my pictures afterwards and they want to come. And I feel like aside from us not being broadcasted, we're gypping our residents out of attending these events. I'm pretty sure they would want to be there, but I can go door to door, no problem. But I remember campaigning, I must have spent at least a month just the valley alone. You know what I mean? I don't mind doing it, but I just feel like we should be able to go through the school system. They come to us and give us 1,000 invitations for things, and I just feel like if it won't cost them anything to make the copies, I don't understand why it can't go home with the child. That's
You know, as long as you get, when Assistant Superintendent Connie Frazier was there, you would take your flyer, she would sign off on it, and then she would send it to the individual schools for you.
I did that.
That's what
it was told no.
That's
what I'm just
Smith,
saying.
They
if
said
you could, because I know the email came out in terms of the council increasing our budget, but I know the question has been posed. I understand even if the conversation is kind of limited between the January and the May of election season because it may be deemed political. But after election is over, a person is sitting in their seat doing their job. That's the question. When there are events as ward meetings, why that couldn't go to the board and then distribute it that specific ward. If you can research that, and Mr. Towns, if you could have that as well, if y'all come back and have a discussion with the council about that, because it seems, and as Councilwoman Summers Johnson just mentioned, on the reverse, we sit here every council meeting and announce the Board of Ed events that are going on. So we're just asking, can that be reciprocated in a reverse manner? Can you respond to that by the next council meeting?
Council President, one of the other issues that, and I don't know about in Newark, but in Orange and East Orange, there's a distribution of paper. And maybe if you supply your own copy of paper, or if you supply them, because I know in East Orange, everybody gets a certain amount of paper.
Right, we get ratings.
And they order a certain amount to keep their budget down. So that's one of the reasons probably why they're saying no in Orange, because that eats up their copy of paper for the teachers and the students.
Right.
But also your stores in your area, everybody goes post a sign in their window or in their doorway as the people are entering. That's because if we started trying to do it for each ward, it will cost a lot of money.
Well, if we come with the,
I wanted to bring the copies.
But that wasn't the solution that was offered.
Right,
So
it
if
was
we can
just
come
no.
back in terms of the distribution and it being more efficient throughout the city, Mr. Towns and Attorney Smith.
That's it for me.
I'm not going to, I don't have any council comments. I believe at this point, for this meeting, other than I do want to let citizens know that as a council member, I sit in this seat and I work from a place of honesty and integrity. And it is not my desire to keep anything from the citizens of Orange. And if there's a question that comes up, and you're welcome, anybody's welcome to bring it here to the public, but that question, I know for me, I'm available through Facebook, I'm available through my email, available by my cell phone. Pretty much if I'm awake, I can answer a question. If not, I will respond. And I'm going to limit to that per Attorney Smith, and we'll move forward accordingly. So at this time I'm sorry, just a second. We should have an executive session. If we see it lasting more than 15 minutes, we're going to come out and we will deal with it accordingly. So is there a motion for the executive session?
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Summers Johnson. Is there a second?
Oh, y'all ain't
Not a
got nobody
second.
gonna
We won't.
Second.
Second by Councilman Corbett. Sorry. Roll call. Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gordon Butler.
Okay.
Yes, yes, and no, Council. Yes, and I am in favor as well. Motion to enter into executive session. Motion by Councilwoman Eason, second by Councilman Corbett. Roll call. This is to enter into executive session. Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gordon Butler.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
Councilman Williams, yes. And it's 10:02. We will reconvene at 10:20. So can everybody, Matt, can you shut down, Council?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Johnson Jr., second by Councilwoman Eason. Roll call, Councilman Corbett.
Sure, why not? I'm going to come back there
Councilman, Councilwoman Eason.
Okay.
Councilwoman Gordon Butler.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr. To reconvene. Councilman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
And I am in favor. We're back in regular session. This is a motion to extend the meeting.
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Eason, second by Councilwoman.
Whoa, lay down.
Second by Councilwoman Summers Johnson. Councilman Corbett.
I say we stay. We're only coming back tomorrow.
This is a motion to extend.
Sure, why not?
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gordon Butler.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
And I am in favor as well. And that's a motion to extend the meeting. We did it at 10:28 p.m. In terms of the executive session about the possible legal matters that came up from the citizens' comments, that specific item is going to be held probably next Thursday, but it'll be announced from the clerk's office when it will be. There has to be some legal opinions given in terms of certain questions that came up, and the questions that came up were, I'm sorry, I lost it just there. Go ahead.
That's part of the special meeting.
Yeah.
Legal question. I'm just saying, but the questions, you can say what the questions. You want me to say what the questions were? No. Okay. I can't say the question, but the meeting will be announced tomorrow, probably next Thursday, tentatively, to give time for those responses and for the 72-hour period to announce. So that matter regarding tax lien will be dealt with in a special meeting by itself. Probably next Thursday, but we'll be able to answer tomorrow specifically. Will it be next Thursday? You need the 72 hours. Okay.
Item number 9 on the agenda.
Councilwoman Williams, if it's next Thursday, I won't be here. I can't make it. I have a conflict.
Okay.
Well, it'll be announced and we'll publish it, so we can coordinate the schedule later. Is that okay?
Well, you know you need 7 too. Okay, so it could be anywhere Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday. Okay, right? Yeah. Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday. Can you just get back to the clerk in terms of Tuesday, what's best for you? And Mr. Attorney Smith, did you sign 21, 22, and 23?
Thursday's bad.
My understanding,
Tomorrow.
I don't have it in front of me, but that one was vetoed.
There was no vetoes given.
That's my understanding from
A letter was given, not a veto.
a letter of veto.
There was a veto letter? Which one? No, that was 18,
Number
wasn't
18,
it?
which is the same as.
And it wasn't a veto, it was a
that we
letter.
presented.
It was not a veto.
It was not a veto. It was on 1820-15, and it was a letter, Attorney Smith.
And then apparently the others were, my understanding, were not signed.
None of these in front of you, 21, 22? Oh, 22 and 23 was, 21 was not, you saying?
No,
You can reduce.
Maggie's telling me that they were not signed.
21.
I'll have to go check, but.
I'll look.
Okay.
Then, can I just ask Mr. Phil, What was his question regarding, I didn't have page 19 in my my package. So I'm looking at it now, and I see there's a number of attorneys representing us on various matters. So I guess I'm clear. What was his specific question about page 19?
Was it the municipal insurance fund, Mr. Feld, 47,000?
The question I was really getting into regarding the municipal insurance fund was that the lack of caps on the initial retentions, and especially looking at Mr. Wenzel's amount, that is for 3 years. And one of the things we're trying to do is control expenditures, that you see a 3-year lump sum.
I think
that was the gist. It really was a comment rather than a question. The only really question I had before was what was the nature of the settlement. Then you addressed that. It was dealing to the Board of Education.
Okay.
Okay. So there's nothing.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lanier?
Ordinance on second reading, public hearing. 21-2015, an ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the Municipal Code of the City of Orange Township entitled Administration of Government, amending the section regarding fiscal procedures.
I'm sorry.
Is a motion?
I apologize. Go ahead. Motion.
Motion.
That's for number 20. 2015. A motion for second reading. I'm sorry. Motion by Councilman Johnson. Second by Councilwoman Eason. No, I'm sorry. Public hearing. This is for the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to be heard on 21-2015 for the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Wait, I wanted to just read it because we kind of messed it up. An ordinance amending Chapter 4. There was nobody from the public. A motion to close by Councilman Corbett. Second. Second by Councilwoman Summers Johnson on the motion. Seeing none, roll call. Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
In favor.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
I am in favor as well. A motion to adopt on final reading.
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Eason.
Second.
Second by Councilman Johnson Jr. on the motion. Seeing none, roll call. Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
In favor.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
And I am in favor as well.
22-2015, an ordinance amending Chapter 210 of the Municipal Code of the City of Orange Township entitled Development Regulations regarding the Historic Preservation Commission.
Move.
Is there anybody from the public
Second.
that would like to be heard? Wait just a second. Seeing none, a motion to close by Councilman
Move.
Corbett, second by Councilman Johnson.
Second.
On the motion. Seeing none, roll call. Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
In favor.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
And I am in favor as well. A motion to adopt on final reading.
Move.
Moved by Councilman Corbett.
Second.
Second by Councilman Johnson Jr. on the motion. Seeing none, roll call. Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
Not in favor.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
And I am in favor as.
That's 5 yeas, 1 no. Motion carries. 1 absent. 23-2015, an ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the Municipal Code of the City of Orange Township entitled Administration of Government, dealing procedural rules of the City Council.
Anybody from the public that would like to be heard on 23-2015?
I'm Jeffrey Feld, local businessman and attorney located at 268 Main Street, Orange, New Jersey. I urge caution on the 23-2015. First, on Monday, last Friday and Monday, I went to the clerk's office and I tried to confirm whether the ordinance was signed off by a city attorney. I just want to make sure of the record, because when we checked the records in the municipal clerk, there was no signature of a city attorney on that ordinance at that time. As to 23-2015, be very careful. There's been a lot of intervening case law since the introduction of first reading on this ordinance. The United States Supreme Court had a case involving the state of Florida. They talked about freedom of speech. and the level of scrutiny that needs to be applied and demonstrated by this legislative body of the compelling state interest to limit public comments. Because you also have to remember the origin of this ordinance. Originally, certain members of the council sought to limit not just comments on agenda, non-agenda items, but also to limit comments on second reading ordinances. And at that time, the city attorney had signed off on it. This ordinance has changed. You've taken off the limitation on second readings. The reason, if you look at the proposed ordinance, the whereas clauses, you did not amend it. And they make reference to a survey of other municipalities. I've made various OPRA requests to see where is this survey. No documentation has been produced to me pursuant to OPRA. It says that there are cases saying that it's okay to lump all agenda and non-agenda comments to 5 minutes. What are those cases? Present those cases to us. You're making that finding. Besides the United States Supreme Court, our state Supreme Court in the last 2 weeks talked about certain findings that when legislative bodies enact ordinances and they're making findings, there needs to be findings and a record to support those findings. I mean, the purpose of this ordinance, on its face, it says this is shortened meetings. I mean, many of us have been here since 6 o'clock when we're supposed to have a statutory public hearing. That public hearing didn't begin till around 6:25 when a quorum was met. You've taken in one recess. It was supposed to be 5 minutes, ended up being 20 minutes. You went to close executive session. The public needs to be able to speak. In addition, when you compare other municipalities, when they have their procedure, they break out agenda and non-agenda items. Because municipalities and even state governmental agencies recognize that there's more importance to give more time to agenda items. And at some point, I think you combine them. Please do not vote on this. We need, especially on agenda items, what we're going through on the budget, where we're going on the tax liens things. There's the Open Public Meetings Act. And when we talk about freedom of speech on political speech, and remember, I'm being sued personally by a developer in the city for comments I made during a public hearing in a public meeting, where the judges have told the plaintiffs in this case, you're not going anywhere, and this case is probably going up to the United States Supreme Court. Be very careful. We're talking about freedom of speech. Understand the scrutiny that a court will place on this, because right now you have 10 minutes. You're cutting down all of them to 5 minutes. What is the justification? Is there justification in the record to just do this, to limit the content and the length of citizens' comments? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fell. Is there anybody else that would like to be heard from the public? Ms. Gordon?
Kathleen Gordon. This ordinance has been reincarnated a number of times. It is in a better shape now than it was. I acknowledge that the previous incarnation lumped even the comments to ordinances into that minimal five minutes. All of the ordinances together, and the public and the reference to agendas and the non-agenda items. So this is somewhat better, but again, this council have been elected by the citizens of this city, and it is remarkable how little time you are willing to give us to tell you what we think about different issues. It is not that we are coming up and talking about this and that. We are almost all people who come up systematically talk about current issues of interest. And a lot of times we bring up also facts, little known facts that to bring it. If not facts, then questions. I personally like pointed questions. That it depends on you, of course, whether or not you recognize the point in the questions when you get the answer. So we would be very disappointed if you approve this ordinance. I noticed you, Council President, I know that you are the author of this ordinance. I noticed you being present and speaking up at the Board of Education public agenda. And I think at that point the shoe was on the other foot. And you spoke as a private person, and you have noticed, I hope you noticed, how little attention that was afforded to your opinion at that time. So please consider that we are in that position here all the time. Recognize that this is not a crowd that is overwhelming the meetings. There is regularly 4 or 5 people who follow the issues day in and day out, and I think you should afford that crowd to provide you feedback. I hope you are all voting no to this. Thank you, and I hope that you may be reconsidering and withdrawing this ordinance.
Thank you, Court.
So, for the record, Councilman Coley is present, 1040.
Motion to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Second. Motion to close by Councilman Johnson. By Councilman Corbett. Second by Councilwoman Easton. On the motion. Seeing none, roll call. I'm sorry. Could you say, Councilwoman? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is really on the motion, but I voted incorrectly last ordinance. I meant to vote yes. I apologize.
You want to support this?
Yeah.
Okay.
The historic preservation. Sorry about that.
It carried. So for the record, you said no, but it did carry. It still voted. Okay, but we're on, so not on the motion on this one. Okay. Roll call. Councilman Coley.
Which ordinance is this, Councilman?
23-2015.
Yes.
Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
No.
Councilman Johnson.
To close public
It's
comments.
to close the hearing.
That's what you're voting on, to close public comments.
No, it's not. This is a motion to close the public comment, and this is then final adoption.
Oh,
That's what I just said.
I'm sorry. I thought we were voting. He just asked what ordinance, and you
23,
said
2015.
We just
Well,
had the
what are we
public
voting
comments.
on?
We just had, it's a motion
Are
to
we
close
voting
the public
to close,
comments.
or are we voting on the ordinance?
Motion to close public
the
comments.
comments of 23, 2015.
Yes.
Does anybody need to go back? This is the close. Okay. Close the public comments.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson Jr. Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
And I am in favor. Motion for final adoption.
Move.
23, 2015. Motion by, Johnson Jr. Was that by you?
No.
Corbett. Second by Councilwoman Easton. On the motion for final
On the motion,
adoption.
Council President.
Councilman Corbett.
I stated this before, I'm stating it again so that it stays on the record. I think that this is the only forum that the people have to come and express their issues. They are the eyes and ears of the council, and they bring us a lot of valuable information for us to investigate and look at. There was a time when I would have supported this, but at this current junction in our council meetings, I do not feel that it is the residents' fault or the people who come to the mic to speak. It's not their fault that our meetings are lasting longer than what they do. So based on that alone, I cannot support this. If we're going to do something like this and reduce the time that they have to speak, we're to look at the council and to lift the time that we have to speak and make it fair across the board. Doesn't make sense for us to be leaving council meetings at 11 o'clock or after 10:30. There shouldn't be a need for us to extend. And so we need to look at ourselves, look at the whole situation to decide what is best for this city when it comes to these council meetings. So I can't say that it's the fault of the residents or the people who come to the mic, because from my vantage point, it's not their fault that we're in these meetings as long as we are. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Easton.
I would just want to say that, as I say all the time, the council meeting is true for the residents to speak, but they have got to start using their council people. You vote for people to come in office. A lot of this stuff can be vetted outside of the council chambers. We are here for you to use us as questions, and everything that happens in this city does not belong in a council meeting. Hold us accountable for getting your responses. Hold us accountable for responding to your needs and making sure that our public works, our police and fire are doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's no need that you need to bring all of that stuff to a council meeting. That, if everything has to be vetted here, then what is the council's job besides legislation? We are supposed to listen to our residents, have them come to us, but they can ring my doorbell, they can call me on the phone, and I'm out there helping them resolve those issues. So they don't have to bring all that stuff to council. That's what we're here for. Because as much as we talk and as much as you say, we cannot resolve issues in a council meeting. Marty still has to go back and do the research. The police department has to do the research. So use your council people that you selected and voted for to do what we need done. And everything does not need to be vetted in a council meeting.
Amen.
Councilwoman, are you finished?
I'm finished.
All right, any other on the motion?
Nope.
I will, there was a couple of things I want to say on the motion. Number one is, to note the corrections that Councilwoman Easton stated in letter H, the spelling has to be corrected to public. And going back to letter E, Councilwoman Easton, you brought forth, calling on everybody, and I think in the consent agenda that, and you know, my thoughts is that the reason that you're able to pull it off is so that there is no discussion on it. So I'm thinking for number E, do we have to add, with the exception of the consent agenda, or is it,
if we are not going to follow what you have in here,
that's what I'm saying right now, to amend it
right
to
now
add.
it said everything.
And that's
so
what
if you want to say that you don't have to do an alphabetical vote on the consent, then you need to say everything except the consent agenda.
That's what you said.
Otherwise, we would be in compliance with what you have here.
That's what I just said. I think we
I don't
should
have a
add,
problem with
I know the clerk wanted to do some research to see if there was already an exemption, but just for clarity right now, for letter E, that we can add at the end, with the exception of the consent agenda. On item E. So other than that, that when the vote is called, it has to be alphabetical order unless it passes, and then it comes back to that person.
I don't have a problem with that.
Oh, well, thank you, Councilman. So E, we would just, with the exception of the consent agenda.
You have that.
And that would be the amended with that. And for the citizens, I like to hear what citizens have to say. I think that when I also am concerned that when we start off, we see a room full of people and then people leave, and I know that's their decision, but I think if we can do our meetings, and maybe the idea, as Mr. Feld said, as other municipalities do, have their meetings in 2 days, that's something that we can look at. But this is always a working document, and it can be further amended. But we've made one step, and we continue to move forward to look at how we can do things, you know, how it works for the city of Orange. Let's continue to look at those things. And I even appreciate that what Mr. Lewis said, that when he was a council person, that the state took legislation that he wrote up and they modeled their state legislation after legislation that he wrote here in Orange. But one of the things that helped me bring this back to the floor was, in fact, when we were at the League of Municipalities, that many of the states, when we had a meeting about ethics and how they handle the public session, many of the municipalities usually at a maximum of 3 minutes, and or their meetings cannot go past 11 o'clock. So I would say that the same state that modeled their ordinance have, you know, since amended it since when he was sitting on council, and that's all. As time moves forward, we just think we seek to make our meetings more efficient and better for all. And so it's not to limit what anybody says. And I'm at various public session. I think what people have to say is very important. So it's not to limit, it's just to make sure that we're working in an efficient manner. With that being said, if there's nothing else, roll call, Councilman Coley?
Yes.
Councilman Corbett?
No.
Councilwoman Eason?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler?
No.
Councilman Johnson Jr.?
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
No.
I am in favor. And the vote is?
God, I'm slow tonight.
I'm sorry, that's okay. So it was 4 yeas and 3 nays. Moving to the consent agenda.
Okay, first, there are no ordinances on introduction and first reading. The consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine by City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the agenda order of business and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda.
Council members, are there any that you, I'm going, 134-2015 is going to continue to be postponed because the request and documentation has not been received. If nothing else, we'll be voting on, I'm sorry, Councilman Johnson Jr., Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
152.
152 for separate vote.
What?
Which one?
151.
Councilman Johnson, 151. Councilman Corbett.
No, I missed the first one. That was
134 will be postponed. 151 and 152 separate vote. Consent agenda, you ready? 134, postponed, 151 and 52, separate vote.
Okay.
You ready?
Mm-hmm. Consent agenda. 144, 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, and 153.
Is there a motion?
Move.
Moved by Councilman Corbett, second by Councilwoman Eason. Roll call, Councilman Coley.
Yes.
Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
In favor.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
Councilwoman, I am in favor.
7 yeas. Motion passed. Resolution 151. A resolution celebrating the life of Anthony Tony Monica, offered by Councilman Johnson Jr. and the Orange City Council.
Is there a motion?
Move.
Moved by Councilman Corbett.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Eason on the motion. Seeing none, roll call. Councilman Coley.
Yes.
Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gaunt Butler.
In favor.
Councilman Johnson Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
Yes.
And I am in favor as well. This will be presented
Point of order.
formally as presented formally at a separate meeting. Councilwoman.
Why was this pulled off the consent agenda?
Council members have the right to pull them off. Councilwoman, you can ask at a separate
Waste
time.
of time.
Okay.
And everybody voted yes. Oh.
Waste of time.
And everybody voted yes. Why was it pulled off the consent agenda?
Councilmember
7 yeas. Motion passed.
Thank you.
152, a resolution approving the bill list for council meeting vote on May 19, 2015, dated May 15, 2015,
Move.
and
Oops,
approving
sorry.
checks issued by the Finance Department in accordance with Ordinance 2-95. Grand total $4,217,053.16.
Move.
Moved by Councilman
Corbett.
Corbett, second by.
I thought we were removing the
Let me get there, Councilwoman. Y'all need a second.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Summers Johnson on the motion. There was a request to move
the decals.
176-2015.
I want to know who approved that and a copy of the purchase order.
176, 2015. It's removed, and we need a copy of the PO, and, well, the PO will tell you, hopefully you'll approve the councilwoman. And also for the next council meeting,
Council President,
just a second, Ms. Knight. Yes, Councilwoman Easton.
for the one for 150, 215, can we see if we can get that in a nice frame? We probably have to cut it down.
151?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
not
we will.
151. 150.
So, okay.
So all of them will be in nice frames, Councilwoman.
But I don't know, his is sort of long. We're gonna probably have to cut some stuff down.
We can change the font.
It's just a nice frame, and you don't have to do 2 frames.
Okay.
Council President.
Motion 152. So 176 is being removed, and also Galaxy, as a matter of record, notice that if they're not here to answer to the council at the next meeting, they will not be paid until they do make an appearance. Director Mays.
All right.
Mr. Johnson.
That's what I wanted to remind. I wanted to state that for the record.
Okay.
That they'll get paid, but the next meeting we expect to see them.
Okay. After from the administration, Council, Mrs. Knight.
Just the purchase order number. I don't have. You just said.
Oh, we can tell you. We'll give it to you. The 176. We'll give it to you. This is the last thing.
And let her know also, I'm still waiting for the backup for the St. Matthew's Church security, which I never got after a month.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything on the motion regarding 152, 2015? If not, roll call. Councilman Coley. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have the new amount, or as amended? As amended, taking out the $176.
Right.
Councilman Coley.
No.
Councilman Corbett?
Yes.
Councilwoman Eason?
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler?
No.
Councilman Johnson?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Yes.
And I am in favor.
That's 4 yeas, 1 abstain, and 2 noes. Motion passed. There's no other pending business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Okay.
Motion by, I'm sorry, who made the motion? I apologize.
Johnson.
Johnson, second by real loud, Councilwoman Gordon Butler. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And again, the meeting, for the special meeting, the clerk will notify everybody tomorrow. Or poll everybody tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Next Thursday's bad.
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday.
Okay.